Chapter 41. The Catastrophe of Tian Sha Pavilion. Have you heard? Among the examination candidates, there's a real beauty. A gorgeous girl. How beautiful can she be? More beautiful than the belles of our college. Two senior students were chatting casually, exchanging gossips, and the latter responded nonchalantly. Their college, the Great Zhou Dynasty Family College, is the academic heart of the whole Great Zhou Dynasty. Any monk who has achieved success in cultivation, or businessmen and officials who are successful in their careers, would do whatever they can to establish a connection with the college to flaunt their status. Even the high-ranking officials and nobles would spare no effort to send their children to study at this college. It could be said that all the children of the upper class were studying in this college. These monks, officials, and businessmen might not be particularly good-looking themselves, but they could easily find beautiful wives using their influence. Thus, their children often turned out to be good-looking as well. For instance, the daughter of the mighty Grand Marshal Li Changyu, the princess of Wailing County from Prince Gong, and the granddaughter of the cabinet Grand Academician Nan Jin, were all stunning beauties. It was hard to say who outshone the rest, and they all had numerous suitors. You can't even compare, his companion animatedly responded. He was regretful that his linguistic skills were incapable of describing the charm of the new girl. You haven't seen the new girl. She is an uncommon beauty in this world. One glimpse at her and you'll remember her for the rest of your life. The lady hasn't passed the exam yet. How did she already become your junior? She will definitely pass. If she doesn't, I'll help her cheat. The other student gave him a brief side eye. Don't you know how strict our college's exams are? You're planning on cheating. It would be more like flirting with death. The vice principal himself invigilates the exam, and the principal personally checks the papers. Where will you muster up the audacity to cheat? Going by your Qi cultivation stage 8 strength. The ability to enroll in the empire's top-rated school at the 8th stage of Qi cultivation was something unimaginable in other empires. According to them, how dare someone at the Qi cultivation stage think about studying in our institute? The most significant difference between the Great Zhou Dynasty Family College and other empires' colleges was this: Great Zhou emphasized laws and reduced rash conflicts. Monks in Great Zhou aren't required to be particularly skilled in combat. This resulted in a robust academic atmosphere in Great Zhou. Consequently, the admission standards to the Great Zhou Dynasty Family College were not focused on one's level of cultivation, but on one's memory and understanding of the scriptures. Memory was contingent on divine sense. The stronger one's divine sense, the stronger one's memory. Divine sense was introduced to cultivators at the nascent soul stage, and it could only be trained later in the nascent soul stage. Still, the Great Zhou Dynasty Family College required its students to be under 25 years old. If anyone could reach the latter half of the nascent soul stage before the age of 25, the Great Zhou Dynasty Family College wouldn't suggest enrolling in the institute but would recommend joining the Dao sect as a wandering monk instead. However, now his companion had aroused his interest, and he asked, "What's the name of the beauty?" "Zhang Jingxin." Zhang Li, who happened to be passing by and overheard their conversation, paused at the sound of the name, feeling a sense of absurdity emanating from it. "Are you referring to the girl with the soft long hair gently drifting in the wind, her delicate eyebrows finely shaped like willow leaves, a pair of clear and hopeful eyes, skin tender and smooth like jade? She is stunningly beautiful as if she were a phantasmal vision. Who keeps you restless once you set eyes on her?" he asked. The man, realizing what his companion was getting at, understood the description of the belle. Yes, finally, you get what I mean." His companion was elated, but soon became wary, worrying that he might have gained another competitor. "Is that the girl you are talking about?" Hearing his friend's words, the companion looked in the direction of the man's finger and saw a man with ordinary looks standing with his unforgettable junior, their relationship looking extremely close. Zhang Li, who saw the saintly Jingxin, appearing just like when he had last seen her, was taken aback. "Zhang Li, who would have thought we could meet here? Fate works in mysterious ways," said Saint Jingxin, delighted. Zhang Jin had run into some problems within her sect which upset her mood. So, she thought of visiting the places where Zhang Li used to stay to help lighten her mood. But, she didn't expect to run into Zhang Li straight away. What an unexpected joy! Because he wanted to avoid being recognized, Zhang Li always made slight adjustments to his face. He was too well known, and there were statues of him everywhere in the 9 states. But Jingxin was just a holy woman who had only gone on her journey below a few hundred years ago and had rarely left Red Dust Pure Land since then. Thus, very few people knew her, and she could present her actual looks without being afraid of being recognized. "So, you're Zhang Jingxin?" Zhang Li found the name quite strange. Saint Jingxin hummed softly, and her cheeks flushed slightly. She did have her selfish reasons behind the name. However, who would have expected to meet Zhongli here? It was indeed embarrassing. What's your name now? Zhang Jingxin did not believe that Zhongli would use his real name. Kong Li, the Kong, as in the Kong from Kong Rong sharing the pears, replied Zhongli. Zhang Jingxin, who didn't understand the latter part, managed to catch that Zhongli's current name was Kong Li. She thought she should act like a smart girl to make the man she fancied like her and chose to not ask about the meaning behind the phrase, Kong Rong sharing the pears. Did you come to take the entrance examination? Zhongli couldn't understand why he would see Saint Jingxin here. Was there anything valuable at the great Zhou dynasty family college that the Red Dust Pure Land's saintly maiden ought to learn? Even if there was no need to pretend to be a student. Saint Jingxin looked at Kong Li, who was also planning to take the college entrance exam, and smiled without saying a word. Zhongli coughed dryly, reminiscing about childhood. I remember that you entered college at the age of 20. But it seems, Kong Li, your childhood lasted quite a long time. Even though he was unsure how the other party knew when he started college, but being so bluntly exposed made Zhongli feel slightly embarrassed. Saint Jingxin couldn't help but laugh and decided to not embarrass Zhongli further. Since we both are taking the exam, why don't we compete and see who will rank first? Zhongli's interest was piqued. Cool, let's raise the stakes, whoever loses must fulfill a condition set by the winner. The two students clapped and made the agreement, leaving the senior students envious of Zhongli. By the way, has the fairy of red dust awakened yet? More than 2 months had passed, so the red dust fairy should have recovered from her slumber. She woke up a few times. She stayed awake for longer than before, but she still sleeps more than she's awake. Drawn to the peach tree, it's where she spends most of her time when she's awake. The Grand Master rarely speaks, she just walks and strolls around the estate, she said. It seems the fairy of red dust's condition is still unstable, Zhongli continued. I have already warned Emperor Zhang and Emperor Wei to keep their mouths shut about the fairy of red dust. Make sure to keep the situation related to the fairy a secret. Because if any information is leaked, who knows which old fellow who has seen the fairy of red dust before may barge into the red dust. Pure Land. I understand, but if our Grand Master wants to go out, we won't be able to stop her. Quote. While chatting casually, the two walked away, leaving two envious seniors behind planning something sinister. Should we kill that guy? I'll hire an assassin from the Tian Sha Pavilion. I don't have such money. Neither do I. Well, let's drop it then. Oh, and just like that, an imminent catastrophe by the Tian Sha Pavilion vanished in their casual conversation. Chapter 42. Host Task Failure. Since Zhongli made a bet with the Saintess of Pure Heart, he didn't plan to compete half-heartedly. His aim was not to beat the junior disciples and come first, but to surpass Pure Heart Saintess and win first place. Never engaging in a battle without preparation, the first thing Zhongli did was to study the reference books for the entrance exam. However, the result left him speechless. He remembered that 500 years ago, when he took his entrance exam, the reference books came from popular books across the 9 provinces, such as Novice Monk's Entrance, Cultivation Preview, Discussions on the 9 Provinces, Culture, and so on. Now, the reference books were The General Outline of Cultivation by Zhongli, 3,000 Questions on Cultivation by Zhongli, Cultivating Immortality Begins with Cultivating the Heart by Zhongli, and The General Outline of Cultivation Annotated Edition. Out of the 10 reference books, 8 were written by me, and the remaining 2 are annotations on my books. People who know would think I'm an honorary graduate of the academy, people who don't would think I am the one who set the exam, Zhongli complained. After he entered the Mahayana realm, his understanding of cultivation deepened, so he compiled his insights into books for other monks to study. After thinking carefully, he realized there is nothing wrong with the academy's approach. Those who cultivated to the body integration realm had a complete understanding of their cultivation process. For example, Pure Heart Saintess, her understanding of cultivation has surpassed even the head of the academy. It is impossible to reach the body integration realm without theoretical support or a thorough knowledge of the cultivation method. Not to mention the Transcendence Tribulation stage in Mahayana realm, their understanding of cultivation is almost absolute truth. The Academy's choice to use the books written by Zhongli, who is in the Mahayana realm, is quite reasonable. Of course, cultivation is one thing, but if you ask Zhongli to write about alchemy or artifact refining, he will apologize as he is clueless on these topics and won't be able to write a book. How could I lose? Zhang Li was already thinking about the demands he would make of the saintess of pure heart. On the day of the exam, Zhang Li confidently arrived at the examination site. When he saw the exam paper, he felt he couldn't lose. The exam asked questions like, what is the definition of cultivation according to the general outline of cultivation? And the casual writings of the human emperor excerpts starts by saying, it's been raining heavily for several days and finally, it cleared up today. Why did the author write this and what does it express? The definition of cultivation. For Zhang Li, that was too simple. He picked up the pen and wrote, cultivation refers to the process of living beings gradually strengthening themselves by absorbing spiritual energy to nourish their bodies. Is the weather supposed to be clear today? Zhang Li mumbled to himself. He remembered the circumstances back then. It was during the rainy season and there was plenty of rain. For several days, there was no sunshine. Finally, on one day, the weather cleared up and Zhang Li, feeling the weather was good, casually wrote about his feelings. Apart from that, the exam asked if a level 6 Qi cultivator with a metal spiritual root encounters a water fire wood spiritual root level 8 Qi cultivator in a forest, how can the former defeat the latter? The question also provided details such as what the time was, how the weather was, how dense the spiritual energy was, and so on. It also noted that the two cultivators were standard cultivators, meaning they didn't have special bloodlines, physiques, or any unique cultivation techniques. This type of question testing practical abilities was also quite easy for Zhang Li. He effortlessly wrote several methods for defeating the stronger with the weaker. Perfect. Zhang Li was very satisfied with his answers and was the first to turn in his paper. The vice principal, who was responsible for supervising the examination, heard that some had turned in their papers early, so he glanced at Zhang Li's paper and couldn't help but smile broadly. A good seedling came in this year. His thinking is active, he isn't rigid about what is in the book, he is audacious in battle, knows how to use an enemy's psychology, his reading comprehension is straightforward. Good, good, good. The vice principal said, good, 3 times in a row, obviously very satisfied with this student Kong Li. So soon there's another person handing in his paper, Zhang Jingxin. She was famous even before she enrolled. Not bad, her vast knowledge and firm foundation. This year's exam had many unconventional and tricky questions, coming from the in-betweens of the recommended books, but she could remember. Good, good. How did you do? After Zhang Li left the examination room, the saintess of pure heart also emerged. Seeing this, Zhang Li teased her. The saintess of pure heart gave a slight smile, revealing 2 dimples, she looked incredibly cute. Even the teachers passing by were distracted and walked directly into a wall. Luckily for the teachers, they were harder than the wall. The wall was unluckier than the teachers. I've already thought about what I want you to do. The smile of the saintess of pure heart exuded a sense of confidence, and even Zhang Li started laughing. I've also already thought about what I want you to do. Wait and see, wait and see. On the day the exam results were announced, the system gave a friendly prompt. Host's task failed. With surprise, Zhang Li stood before the ranking list. He had to squat to see his name. Kong Li, ranked last. Saintess of pure heart was standing out in the crowd, her noble temperament made many people feel inferior, and they maintained a certain distance from her voluntarily. She also saw her name. Zhang Jingxin, ranked first. The saintess of pure heart lightly covered her small mouth, to others it seemed like a surprised expression, but in fact, she was trying hard not to burst out laughing after seeing Zhang Li's rank. No, I am in pain. I am a body integration cultivator, I should have strong concentration. The human emperor getting last place in an exam based on his own book, no, I can't hold it anymore. Ha ha ha, I find it so funny. After a moment's inner struggle, the saintess of pure heart finally did not let herself laugh out loud. If you want to laugh, just laugh. Zhang Li had an expressionless face as he looked at the gloating expression of the saintess of pure heart. I am not laughing pfft haha, you also have such days. There must be some problem somewhere. Zhang Li rationally deduced the reason. Let's go find the dean and ask if he made a mistake in judging. The dean of the academy, Dean Li, was responsible for grading this year's exam papers. Dean Li stood on the high podium, examining whether there were any promising students this year. Speaking of which, that student named Zhang Jingxin was pretty good, she could become his student. Dean, someone is looking for you. Who? It's this year's highest-ranked Zhang Jingxin and lowest-ranked Kong Li, they said you made a mistake in grading. With a strong snort through his nostrils, Dean Li looked rather unhappy. That he would make a mistake, that's ridiculous. He remembered Zhang Jingxin and Kong Li, Zhang Jingxin's paper was almost perfect, whereas Kong Li's paper was a mess. Let them come up, in front of everyone, and let them say where I went wrong. If only the candidate with the lowest scores had come to see Dean Li, he surely wouldn't bother with him, but if the candidates with the highest and lowest scores come together, then he must treat them well. It's a good opportunity to assert his authority in front of the potential students on the podium. You must be Zhang Jingxin. Not bad, you are good looking, your writing is neat, your exam paper is fairly good as well. Dean Li treated the saintess of pure heart kindly, making his voice loud on purpose to attract the attention of students below. As for Kong Li, who had the lowest score, he just ignored him. Is that Zhang Jingxin? She's so beautiful. Indeed, as a girl, even I am moved. Who is the person beside her? He doesn't seem to look well. I don't know him. Dean Li, my name is Kong Li. I think there might be a mistake in the marking of my paper. Zhang Li spoke up first. He also knew Dean Li. Every time he came to the academy for a lecture, he was received by Dean Li, who treated him respectfully. Chapter 43. How dare you criticize the Zhang human emperor? Kong Li, right, I somewhat remember. Dean Li said indifferently, a stark contrast to his attitude towards Saint Pure Heart. Why am I last? Zhang Li, holding back his anger, questioned. If he had failed by coming in second, that would be tolerable, but attaining the last place. How is that possible? Am I the one who lacks brains, or is it you? You have the audacity to ask. Dean Li, amused and enraged by Zhang Li's question, pulled up Zhang Li's paper, amplified it through a spell, allowing everyone to see it. Let everyone see what nonsense you've written. Saint Pure Heart didn't expect that Zhang Li, the human emperor, whose paper was mostly about the book he'd written, would ever be ranked last. Like everyone else, she was curious about how Zhang Li would respond. However, after reading it, everyone found Zhang Li's answers to be exemplary and backed with resources. His writing was succinct and filled with information that not even many had known, exemplifying his extensive knowledge. Unlike them, he didn't just learn everything. Seeing everyone's confusion, Dean Li explained. At first glance, there seems to be nothing wrong with this paper, but upon closer inspection, the issues are quite significant. Most of the paper's answers can be found in the book, meaning anyone who reads diligently will perform well. But, although what Kong Li wrote isn't exactly like the book, it's not wrong. Saint Pure Heart voiced everyone's doubts. Dean Li shook his head. Close enough. This is Zhang Li's life's work. Every word is a precious gem deserving of contemplation. Can it be casually replaced? I have studied Zhang Li's theories my whole life. Each time I reread the Compendium of Cultivation, I gain something new. With your current abilities, you're far from comprehending the depth in Zhang Li's books. Thus, you should memorize, practice, and then understand. Dean Li adopted a concerned tone tailor-made for his students. Zhang Li, in fact, wanted to say that the Compendium of Cultivation was intended for Qi cultivators moving from Foundation Establishment to Golden Core. It's an introductory text. What sort of epiphanies could someone of the body integration realm possibly have reading it? Dean Li continued. For instance, this question about the definition of cultivation. Compendium of Cultivation uses a page to define cultivation, but Kong Li summarized it in a simple sentence. How is that possible? Zhang Li asked. Is it not possible that the Compendium of Cultivation is not for body integration realm cultivators but for Qi cultivation and Foundation establishment? Can the detailed writings be summarized in a succinct sentence? Absolutely not, Dean Li asserted with determination. Zhang Li is so great. His books naturally have no age or cultivation level restrictions, they're for everyone. I've studied Zhang Li's theories for over 100 years. Each time he came to the lecture hall, I've hosted him. No one understands Zhang Li's thoughts more than I do. The vice dean, who was standing not too far away, remained noncommittal. Dean Li couldn't stand anyone speaking ill of Zhang Li. He interpreted Zhang Li's theories rigidly, following every word and phrase to the letter, insisting that Zhang Li's theories were too precious to change even a single word. For this reading comprehension question, you assert that it was just a sunny day with no hidden meaning. How can Zhang Li write something without profound implications? After days of continuous rain, he chose a sunny day to write his essay. Zhang Li's intention must be to say that though there are numerous difficulties in cultivation, like the persistent rain, there will always be a clear day after the rain. We surely can overcome the difficulties and continue our cultivation. This is Zhang Li motivating us. Zhang Li retorted, furrowing his brows, why must there be profound implications in what Zhang Li says? Dean Li, with a stern look, shouted in rebuke. How dare you? Someone like you can't possibly dare to criticize Zhongli. Are you suggesting Zhongli is a sage, that every single word he utters is infallible, every document he writes has profound implications, and his behavior is so impeccable it's beyond critique, and no discussions are allowed? Dean Li raged. Just by your attitude towards Zhongli, you are unworthy of being admitted. Quote. Zhongli is a proud alumnus of our school. Someone like you attending the same school tarnishes our school's reputation. It tarnishes the name of Zhong. Dean Li released the aura of the body integration realm, trying to force this disrespectful individual to capitulate. The students underneath the platform couldn't withstand the pressure of the body integration realm. They felt as if a mountain had been placed on their shoulders, making even their breaths difficult. Saint Pureheart frowned slightly, a touch of anger in her heart. She wanted to counteract Dean Li's pressure with hers. But she quickly realized someone was even angrier than her. Tarnishing the human emperor's reputation. I think you're the one tarnishing my reputation. Quote. Zhong Li's anger soared to the skies, like an ancient deity dancing behind him. His aura, shrouding the heavens, seemed to cover the entire world, but it targeted only Dean Li. Zhong Li could no longer tolerate Dean Li's twisted logic. He revealed his true identity, causing a stir among the audience. A towering statue of Zhong Li stood in the academy. Who in the audience didn't recognize Zhong Li? Immediately, the hall filled with laughter, all of them openly mocking Dean Li. They disliked rote learning too, but Dean Li was the dean and a body integration realm cultivator. If he said rote learning was right and they wanted to be admitted, then rote learning was the only option. Today, with Zhong Li openly challenging him, many students who were dissatisfied with Dean Li and his constant attribution of everything to Zhong Li were finally able to let off steam. When I was at the academy, the academic atmosphere fostered freedom and openness, where different academic theories could coexist. But now, it feels as though it's become the Zhong Li Academy. The basic book I wrote for Qi cultivation and foundation establishment cultivators is being treated as a classic text. You even claim to reap benefits from it. I'd like to ask, what benefits exactly have you gained? Zhong Li demanded sternly, looking gravely at the state of the academy. The dean was the direction of the academy. He was disheartened by what such a person was doing as the dean. What could you expect the academy to be under his leadership? A stagnant water pool. It's ridiculous that he even hosts lectures here. He only gives 2 lectures, and what can you teach in 2 days? Of course, it's to inspire students, to guide them, and to stimulate their thinking about cultivation. Looking at the current situation, those lectures are a complete waste. Filled with cold sweat, Dean Li would never have imagined that the Kong Li he'd scolded would turn out to be Zhong Li. It was laughable that he'd dared to criticize Zhong Li's writing and misinterpret Zhong Li's intentions, claiming there had to be profound implications. Human emperor, this is all just a misunderstanding. I didn't know you were Kong Li. If it's you, of course, your paper definitely deserves full marks. Dean Li Hengshan, this is not about who I am. You have not recognized your mistakes, and I am very disappointed in you. Zhong Li didn't bother with Dean Li any longer. He walked over to the excited Vice Dean. Vice Dean Meng, inform all the students that I, Zhong, will give a lecture. Vice Dean Meng immediately nodded, bowed to Zhong Li, and went to inform the students. Finally, they don't have to be subjected to Dean Li's rigid theories. That day, Zhong Li sat on his statue, hosting a lecture titled, Authority Can't Always Be Trusted. Chapter 44, Weak Women. Having met Zhong Li, the Saintess Pureheart naturally would not continue to pose as an 18-year-old girl at the academy. After leaving the academy, she followed Zhong Li. Seeing his somber mood, she comforted him. It's just a condition you lost to me, I won't make you do anything bad. With a downcast look, Zhong Li said, I'm just lamenting the lost chance to find the immortal realm due to my arrogance. The immortal realm, have you found a new clue? Saintess Pureheart's eyes blinked charmingly. She thought of all the out-of-the-box things Zhong Li had done in pursuit of the immortal realm. For example, he had heard that gathering 4 Dragon Balls could connect to the immortal realm. He borrowed the Dragon Balls from the 4 Sea Dragon Kings but just ended up glowing without finding a pathway to the immortal realm. Another time, he heard that resolving military conflicts could grant one immortality, so he took on the heavenly tribulation without any resistance, though he ended up unharmed when the heavenly tribulation failed to ignite. Yet another time, someone said that sacrificing 1 continent's worth of people could grant one merit and the ultimate ascension. He sought out the person who spread the rumor and executed him on the spot. Who knew what rumors of immortality he had heard this time? Hey, is Zhong Li there? The remote communication talisman sounded uncontrollably. Without guessing, it was clear that the Dao sect master was searching for Zhang Li. Go away, I'm not here, Zhang Li said unenthusiastically. The phantom image of the Dao sect master appeared, looking no different from a teenager. He glanced at Zhang Li. I am looking for the human emperor Zhang. What are you, a wandering disciple of the Dao sect, butting in for? Ah. Saintess Pure Heart is also here, so great, this way I won't have to deal with. Taoist Immortal Qingyu's stern expression. If you still want me to attend your Dao sect's immortal artifact appreciation conference, be respectful. The Dao sect master immediately put on a fawning face. Brother Zhang, look at what you're saying, didn't I specially come to notify you? According to my estimation, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal will be able to refine another round on its own in 20 days. The Immortal Artifact Appreciation Conference will start in 15 days. You can represent the Imperial Palace, and Saintess Pure Heart can represent the Red Dust Pure Land. How does that sound? Zhang Li didn't respond but suddenly appeared behind the phantom of the sect master and noticed that he had indeed been holding up his middle finger behind his back. I knew Vu were speaking ill of me behind MB back. Tian's Li SDAT and turned off the remote communication talisman. Seeing the connection cut off, the Dao sect master wasn't worried. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal refining another round was a rare occurrence in thousands of years. He didn't worry that Zhang Li wouldn't show up. Indeed, Zhang Li turned to ask Saintess Pure Heart. We have more than 10 days, how should we get to the Dao sect? Saintess Pure Heart naturally wouldn't naively suggest flying over there. It would take only half a day, even if they traveled at top speed, to reach the Dao sect. She gave a light smile. Let's take a flying boat. It's been a while since I last took one. Quote. Zhang Li nodded. Okay, then I will fly over first. Am I, a frail girl, supposed to take the flying boat alone without you worrying about me encountering any dangers? Zhang Li thought for a long time but couldn't understand. How did the esteemed divinity transformation stage cultivator, who would be treated as a state preceptor in any empire, relate to being a frail girl? As for coming across danger, probably only the heavenly demon from another domain could threaten her. It seemed she was worried about encountering an attack from a heavenly demon. Zhang Li was heartened by Saintess Pure Heart's caution. If she was as cautious with the lower river town and the upper river town back then, later events might have been avoided. She's grown. Although the danger Saintess Pure Heart worried about was extremely unlikely, Zhang Li couldn't bear to extinguish her barely their cautious nature. He agreed to travel on the flying boat with her. It isn't until the divinity transformation stage that cultivators can fly freely, thus qualifying to traverse the 9 realms. Otherwise, what good is voyage on a flying boat? A flying boat is considered a low-grade magic artifact. It's easy to refine and control. The only drawback is its high demand for spiritual power. If one were a divinity transformation cultivator, one could of course provide a continuous supply of spiritual energy, but divinity transformation cultivators would disdain to do so. Therefore, spirit stones must be used to supply spiritual energy. The flying boat requires a large quantity of spirit stones, so ticket prices won't be too low. The cultivators able to afford to travel on a flying boat should at least be at foundation establishment stage. After a careful selection, Zhang Li and Saintess Pure Heart finally found a few mid-grade spirit stones from their storage ring to use as their boat tickets. Usually, low-grade spirit stones are used to purchase boat tickets. However, because their daily expenses start with top-grade spirit stones, their storage ring is filled with top-grade spirit stones and ultimate spirit stones, with only a scant few mid to low-grade spirit stones. Zhang Li didn't intend to show off, but he had no choice. He was so poor he only had top-grade spirit stones left. Unsurprisingly, as soon as the two got on the boat, they caught the attention of several surly men. Especially upon seeing the stunning Saintess Pure Heart, they harbored ill intentions. The men communicated through looks. Should we steal it? We should steal it. A small, red-lipped, white-toothed monk with a beaded necklace rose and saluted the men. Looking about 14 or 15, his jewel-studded, radiant kasaya was so blinding that the men could hardly open their eyes. The monk advises not to obsess over the illusion of beauty. Physical beauty is fleeting, and the more one obsesses over it, the deeper one falls. Fellow believers, please let go of your obsession. The young monk's words seemed to have a curious allure that made people instinctively believe. The fierce-looking men became drowsy and their facial expressions softened. When another passenger saw the monk using such a strange technique, he walked up to the men, shouted loudly, and like a gong reverberating in their ears, woke them up. The men, jolted awake, hastened to thank the passenger. The passenger was a man dressed in white scholar's attire, holding a writing brush and a folding fan. His facial features were handsome, making him the perfect depiction of a classic scholar. Thank you, scholar of Confucianism. Only one type of person in the 9 realms dressed like a scholar, the students of the Confucian school, one of the 6 sects. Confucian scholars viewed educating the world as their duty. They valued benevolence, righteousness, propriety, and wisdom. Often, they went in and out of imperial palaces to spread their teachings. Among the 6 sects, they were the most well-known, followed by Buddhism. The Confucian disciple gave a faint smile and said, Sage Meng had said, man's nature is apt to goodness as water tends to flow downwards. Everyone is inclined to benevolence, just as water will flow downwards. Even though you look fierce and have robbed households, you have only done so because of life's hardships. I believe in the goodness of your hearts. I'm sure you also see yourselves as fundamentally good. The words of the Confucian disciple were like a lullaby, crawling into their ears and making them feel sleepy. Unaware, they started murmuring. When a human is born, they are innately good. A passenger named Zhang rudely coughed and the burly men came to their senses. Anger welled up in their hearts. These 2 guys had used them as practice puppets. One monk advised them to let go of their desires, and one Confucian scholar reminded them of their ingrained goodness. Did they think that the men, with their abilities at the golden core stage, were pushovers? The burly men drew their weapons, murderous intentions surging. They set aside the plan to rob Zhongli and Saint's pure heart for now, deciding to deal with the baldy and pretty boy first. The young monk and Confucian scholar sighed simultaneously. Why must you force us to take actions? At this moment, the aura of a nascent soul cultivator burst forth, striking terror into the burly men and immediately making them beg for mercy. Chapter 45. What a joy it is to have friends coming from afar. Wu Ji, monk of wisdom, it's been a long time. Are you also heading to the Tao sect? King Change, I am attending the Immortal Artifact Appreciation Convention to broaden my perspectives. The small monk and scholar greeted each other, obviously having known each other for a long time. Upon hearing this, the burly men lost all their desires for revenge, even the onlooking passengers unconsciously straightened their attitudes, not wanting to appear too casual in front of these 2. It is said that Wu Ji is a reincarnation of the Buddha. Right after his birth, he transformed a small town into a Buddhist land. Even his parents paid homage and took refuge in Buddhism. After hearing this, the old Buddha Sumi came immediately and took Wu Ji as his closed-door disciple, declaring him as the Buddha's son. Because he is the reincarnation of the Buddha, his cultivation speed is exceptional. By 14, he already became a nascent soul cultivator, breaking the youngest age record for a nascent soul. Zhongli hadn't even traversed over at the age of 14. Scholar King Change is a Confucian preacher. Despite his young age, he is already the state preceptor of 7 small countries. Due to his teachings of Confucianism, these countries transformed into lands of gentlemen, where people don't lock doors at night, and lost items are not picked up from the street. Even scholars of the divinity transformation stage would seek advice from him on Confucianism. Is monk Wu Ji genuinely the reincarnation of the Buddha? Saint Pureheart asked curiously. She had heard the legends about monk Wu Ji, and even directly asked old Buddha Sumi, but the old monk just smiled, not uttering a word. Usually, he would at least brush her off with, the Buddha says it cannot be spoken. If she could beat him, she would have forced the words out. The title of Buddha isn't easily given to any Buddhist who ascends to the West Paradise, only those with significant achievements in Buddhist law, owning a Buddhist land in the immortal realm, are qualified to be called Buddha. Zhongli had a strange expression. Is that what you're concerned about? What else should I worry about? Saint Pureheart was confused. He could be your Grand Master. Your master, the Taoist Pure Desires, is fond of him. Didn't you know? Seeing that Saint Pureheart had a hard time accepting this news, Zhongli seriously answered her question. I don't know, I am not familiar with reincarnation. Zhongli indeed didn't understand reincarnation. He had lived for 500 years and still couldn't figure out whether he time-traveled or awakened memories of his past life. However, old Buddha Sumi said that monk Wu Ji's Buddha nature is even better than his, and he intends to make Wu Ji a candidate for the human emperor also to compete for the throne. And whether or not he's the reincarnation of a Buddha, I can confirm that this little monk had an incredibly powerful past life. Zhongli squinted his eyes at monk Wu Ji. What did you see? Saint Pureheart knew that Zhongli was very insightful about souls. A soul that doesn't match the age. In Zhongli's eyes, monk Wu Ji's soul was unusually strong and resilient. Although it was still a soul at the nascent soul stage, his soul bore the signs of surviving innumerable calamities. This was something a 14-year-old monk should not have. Ordinary people reincarnate, and all traces of their souls will vanish, making them clean and new individuals. Zhang Li couldn't even tell who their past lives were. Yet, Monk Wu Ji's soul was strong enough that even reincarnation couldn't erase its traces. It could only mean that his previous life was too powerful, thus influencing his present life. As for whether his past life was a Buddha, who knows? We are about to pass through the White Marsh Empire, so everyone be careful. The captain shouted loudly, warning the guards on the flying boat to stay vigilant. Actually, Zhang Li understood that the ship captain was usually speaking to the guards, but now on the flying boat, there were Buddhist disciples and Confucian scholars. Clearly, he was saying this for these two to hear. Before he could finish speaking, an eagle's cry echoed from beneath the flying boat, making the ship's passengers shudder with fear. The most powerful guard on the flying boat was a cultivator at the peak of the Golden Core stage. Upon hearing the eagle cry, his hair stood on end. A nascent soul stage eagle demon. Nascent soul cultivators indeed could not fly, but avian demons were an exception. The guard cursed in his heart. On normal days, it was just a few Foundation establishment small eagles causing a mess at most, and at worst, Golden Core eagle demons. But why now? Was it because this little monk was too alluring, luring the eagle demon over? The White Marsh Emperor's dynasty, also known as the Bandit dynasty, truly lives up to its name. Today, I have witnessed it with my own eyes. Even the pure heart holy maiden, who seldom dabbled in the red dust, had heard about the nickname of the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty. No choice, the White Marsh Emperor tried her best, and the fact that the kingdom has not disintegrated shows her capability. What can we do when she is a mixed-blood Marsh Kylan and could not suppress the 8 great kings? Zhang Li was equally helpless about the nickname of the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty. The current White Marsh Emperor was a hybrid of a marsh and a Kylan, looking like a white Kylan. This was simply a joke for the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty. Were they supposed to accept a White Marsh Emperor who had the appearance of a Kylan? Demons only recognize lineage. If the lineage is impure, they will not recognize the White Marsh Emperor, and as a result, the Emperor cannot use the dynasty's luck. Zhang Li had seen the White Marsh Emperor before and thought that the White Kylan was handsome and could not really understand the demon's thoughts. The White Marsh Emperor is only in the body integration realm, and the 8 demon kings are also in the body integration realm. She is not me, capable of taking on 8 at the same time. The 8 demon kings refused to acknowledge the White Marsh Emperor, each carving out a piece of land, acting upon her orders and edicts entirely based on their mood. The White Marsh Emperor's dynasty is formed from beasts, thus being the utmost chaotic, with the current 8 kings forming their governments, falling into a bandit den is not surprising. Quote, however, it was precisely because of the chaotic order of these beasts that human cultivators often went to the White Marsh Emperor's dynasty for training, hunting beasts without any guilt. The eagle demon appeared, its wings spread out to a length of 9 feet, and the edges were faintly gold, showing its noble lineage. It dived toward the pile of spirit stones serving as fuel. This stack of spirit stones was even more expensive than the flying boat itself. Wu Ji, the Buddhist disciple, and Wang Bian, the Confucian scholar, took action at the same time, repelling the eagle demon. If it weren't for the eagle demon's ability to fly, it would have been captured by the two already. Eagle, lay down your butcher's knife and become a Buddha on the spot. Please stop. Quote, eagle, burning, killing, and looting are not what a gentleman should do. The eagle demon ignored the two's advice and even wanted to spit phlegm on them. The two sighed at the same time. Their teaching only worked for those under the Golden Core stage, and it was utterly useless for this nascent soul eagle demon. The little monk pulled out the precious Buddhist artifact, Brahma Pagoda, from his bosom and fiercely smashed it towards the eagle demon. This purple Brahma Pagoda was only about palm-sized, but it was as heavy as the sun and the moon. The eagle demon was slightly grazed by it and immediately spat out blood. It could not even flap its wings without strength and fell directly to the ground. Wang Bian threw out a written notice, marked with a still word. As soon as it touched the eagle demon, the demon was immobilized, led honestly back to the flying boat under the guidance of the note. The eagle demon was confused by this sudden turn of events and was captured before it could even react. Using force is not beneficial for maintaining peace of mind. Wang Bian said some words hesitantly, making the eagle demon want to cry but had no tears. Well, you should not use force then. Wu Ji, the little monk, was equally hesitated. Yeah, but if the other party doesn't listen, what can we do? Should we persuade him again? Good. So the two placed the immobilized eagle demon in front of them, one beside chanting Buddhist scriptures, and one preaching about benevolence and righteousness. Buddhist scriptures went into the eagle's left ear and came out from the right, only to be blocked by the teachings of benevolence and righteousness going into the right ear. The eagle demon's mind was now filled with, the gentleman says prajna paramita, and having friends come from far away is a joyful thing. It was filled with regret, deep regret. Chapter 46. Spiritual artifacts, magic artifacts, Tao artifacts, and immortal artifacts. They are imitations of the Brahma Tower and the Great Confucian Word Post. Among the passengers, someone with exceptional knowledge recognized the treasures that Wuji the Buddha child and King Change had just used. The sacred treasure of Mount Sumeru's line of Buddhism is called the Brahma Tower. It's said to be as heavy as a small world. If struck with full force, even a tribulation-crossing cultivator would not dare to take it head-on. There is also a rumor that it has the ability to break open space, allowing the holder of the Brahma Tower to freely traverse through it. Although the Great Confucian Word Post doesn't have the same status as the Brahma Tower, it is still a genuine immortal artifact held by Confucians. If a word is written on it, such as hold, the post would immobilize people. If it's fight, the post could transform into a Confucian guardian for battle. Other options include speak, rush, escape, and so on, providing a vast range of utilities. Of course, both are immortal artifacts. Both Buddhism and Confucianism wouldn't let their juniors carry them, but they have provided them with copies for self-protection. Even the imitation is extremely powerful. Although it's not as precious as the real thing, it still belongs to the scope of magic artifacts. The crowd was in awe. Magic artifacts were extremely precious, and even if they sold all the passengers on this boat, they still wouldn't be able to afford a fragment of a magic artifact. 9 states categorizes treasures into 4 tiers. The first tier is spiritual artifacts. Essentially, each foundation establishment cultivator could have one. But the power is not great, they're only sharper and stronger than ordinary weapons, there's nothing extraordinary about them. The second tier is magic artifacts. A nascent soul cultivator could afford one by spending half of their property. They naturally surpass spiritual artifacts in power and can communicate with cultivators' thoughts, and be manipulated remotely. At this stage, they can develop subtle wisdom and help the cultivator automatically defend against the enemy. The third tier is Tao artifacts. Crafting Tao artifacts is extremely hard and requires a cultivator to have profound insights into the Tao. For example, the Tao of time of the great Zhou dynasty family, the Tao of space of Mount Sumeru, or the dream path of Dream Pure, and so on. Furthermore, the materials that carry the Tao are extremely expensive. Not many divinity transformation cultivators could afford it, usually only the wealthy body integration cultivators could. The fourth tier is of course, immortal artifacts. No one in the 9 states can forge immortal artifacts. The existing immortal artifacts, except for the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, which was made by Taoist ancestors before Ascension, the rest were brought to 9 states by former immortals from the immortal realm which are extremely rare. The most famous among the immortal artifacts are surely Tao sect's Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, Buddhism's Brahma Tower, and Confucianism's Great Confucian Word Post. The Great Confucian Word Post is indeed imitated, but the Brahma Tower. The Saintess Pure Heart hesitated, her gaze turned to Zhang Li, seeking an answer. She too owned a Tao artifact called 12-rank Green Lotus, so she had a good understanding of Tao artifacts. She always felt that the Brahma Tower did not seem to be a Tao artifact. Zhang Li nodded, expressing his doubt. You're not wrong. This is indeed the real Brahma Tower. How much importance does old Buddha of Mount Sumeru attach to this new Buddha child to even let him bring out such a thing? The passengers didn't genuinely understand immortal and Tao artifacts. They just thought that the sects would not let their disciples take away their sect's treasure, so they believed that Wuji the Buddha child and King Change's artifacts were fakes. But in fact, what King Change had was a fake, whereas what Wuji the Buddha child had was genuine. However, Wuji the Buddha child's skill was not high, and he could not fully unleash the power of the Brahma Tower. But if he really encountered danger, the Brahma Tower would automatically repel the enemy, killing the attacker. Even a body integration realm cultivator could be killed. However, these 2 juniors are relying too heavily on their treasures at this young age. This isn't good. Surely they can handle a wild demon that can fly with their sect's legacy. Zhang Li expressed some concern for the current state of 9 states. Not just the 2 of them, other cultivators are also like this. They always want to buy a treasure at all cost, using it when facing the enemy. They can't truly cultivate themselves. Only when one is strong can they really be considered powerful. Saintess Pure Heart stammered in her defense. Because treasures are really very useful. How can everyone be like you, leaving the great pole to gather dust and not use it? I understand the reasons, but Zhang Li wanted to say something more, but seeing Saintess Pure Heart's aggrieved expression, he did not continue. At this moment, the eagle demon was still being abused by the two. It felt as if it was becoming Buddhist one moment and righteous the next, causing its spirit to almost shatter. With the voices of Wuji the Buddha child and Qin's change Zedans louder and more engrossed, forgetting their surroundings, they are wholly committed to either cultivating or teaching the eagle demon. The passengers, entranced by their voices, gathered into two groups. One group was behind Wuji the Buddha child intently worshipping the Buddha and chanting together. They felt sinful in this life and took out all their wealth to provide Wuji the Buddha child, pledging to continuously do good deeds to seek rebirth in the next life. The other group were behind King Change and had a deeper understanding of family and country sentiments. They planned to dedicate themselves wholly, even unto death, to their country or sect once they return. I remembered that neither Buddhism nor Confucianism were this wicked. Is this brainwashing? Saintess Pure Heart had never seen this situation and found it somewhat terrifying. It's just temporary. Once they stop chanting, the brainwashing will be lifted. Zhang Li, having seen many things, knew this was quite common in Buddhism and Confucianism. The scripture of Buddhism and Confucianism have a very strong brainwashing effect. If the control over the scripture is not good and is recited indiscriminately, it can easily cause group brainwashing. Once, a high-ranking monk from Buddhism was walking while reciting scriptures. He was so engrossed that he accidentally brainwashed a small town's believers. The monk kept walking until he reached the East Sea, with the crowd following him. However, they didn't know how to swim and drowned in the East Sea. Upon realizing his grave mistake, the monk decided to walk the demonic path. Old Buddha of Mount Sumeru was reluctant to take action, so he had Zhang Li help to execute him. This high-ranked monk was the former Buddha child, whom Taoist priestess Qingyu had a crush on. Zhang Li stood up and said, but we still need to intervene. These two children's F.A. have deviated from the orthodox path and could potentially turn to evil. The eagle demon quickly yelled, hey, are you guys from Buddhism or Confucianism or are you heretics? Is it okay to forcibly change someone's thoughts like this? Look behind you, hey. Wuji the Buddha child and King Change had already been quietly competing with each other to see who could first cultivate or teach the eagle demon. The eagle demon then saw one of the two people in the corner get up, walk briskly to Wuji the Buddha child and King Change, and give each one a chop to the head. You two ignorant fools, wake up. You've gone off the right path and if you continue down this road you'll fall into evil. Wuji the Buddha child and King Change suddenly came to their senses. Seeing the two groups of people behind them, they felt guilty and quickly dissipated their mana so the people could return to normal. The two of them respectfully looked at Zhang Li, thanking him for waking them up. Zhang Li, the eyes of Wuji the Buddha child and King Change widened. The eagle demon's eyes nearly popped out in shock. It had whimsically decided to rob someone, but how did it end up encountering not only the Buddha child and a Confucian practitioner, but also the human emperor Zhang Li? Is this considered good luck or bad luck? Chapter 47. Never kill the person. Buddha sect Wuji pays respect to the human emperor. Confucian sect King Change pays respect to the human emperor. Wuji the Buddhist and King Change were both excited and immediately knelt before human emperor as if he was their own master, with great respect. As the strongest being in the 9 provinces, Zhang Li can be said to be the idol of all the younger generations. In an age where they cannot ascend, their goal is to become a powerhouse like Zhang Li. Zhang Li blocked their voices. These two knew his identity and were respectful, but if other passengers on the ship learned of this, they would definitely surround him. Zhang Li felt like a superstar from his previous life, always having to wear sunglasses when going out to shop, for fear of being recognized. All you know is to fight. You almost fell into a trap and turned into evil. Zhang Li rebuked the two juniors in an elder's tone. The two who were just acting high and mighty, acknowledged their mistake and promised not to commit it again. As the two admitted their mistakes, Zhang Li didn't say much. Are you both attending Dao Sect's Immortal Artifact Appreciation Convention as well? Where are your masters? Why send you two juniors to represent the sect? My master said he is at a critical stage of understanding the path of space and cannot be distracted, so he let me go, replied Wuji the Buddhist. Zhang Li understood. It seems that the old Buddha Sumeru has made progress in his understanding of the path of space. King Change hesitated for a while, and finally said, my master said that every time he sees the Dao Sect master, he gets angry. So he let you go on his behalf. Zhang Li knew about the feud between the Confucian sect hierarch and Dao Sect master. He proudly showed the Tao sect master his well-cultivated subjects, claiming that human nature is fundamentally good with honesty and integrity. The Tao sect master, however, believed that humans are naturally greedy. He took out a handful of high-quality spirit stones and threw them on the roadside. As expected, the polite crowd started to fight for them, which made the Confucian sect hierarch turn green with anger. No, he said he wanted to see the self-forging of the immortal artifact, so he let me officially represent him while he sneaked in by himself. Your master is quite ingenious. What Zhongli really wanted to say was, isn't your master afraid that his pure and righteous Tao heart would be shattered? What do you plan to do with this eagle demon? Please give us some advice, human Emperor Zhong. Zhongli laughed and said, since you caught it, naturally you should deal with it. Why are you asking me? The Buddhist Wuji thought, should we show some compassion and let it? The eagle demon immediately said when he heard this. The Buddhist disciple is indeed a virtuous man. If I am released, I will build a sanctuary for you to ensure that the incense will never be extinguished. King Change shook his head. Should we release it and let it rob other flying boats again? It's better to kill it. The Buddhist Wuji was tempted, but hesitated, but it hasn't killed anyone. Isn't the punishment too heavy if we kill it? Yes, I never killed anyone. The eagle demon immediately defended itself. It was afraid that if it didn't speak up quickly, it would be slaughtered by these two men. The demon glanced at Wuji, the Buddhist disciple, who had a murderous look, and thought, how can this be called a monk? The Buddhist Wuji felt torn. Although the demon didn't seem to be telling the truth, he couldn't just kill it for lying, even if it turned out to be a mistake. Because killing him would bring dust to his clear and spiritual state of mind. King Change took out the Great Confucian word post and wrote the character for truth on it and then posted it on the body of the demon. Have you ever killed anyone? The eagle demon replied. No, you only rob the spirit stones of the flying boats and never kill anyone. I don't kill, King Change said to Wuji, the Buddhist disciple. The word post I used just now is for truth, and now it can only tell the truth. Since it says it hasn't killed anyone, then it would seem it's not a wicked monster, let it go. The Buddhist Wuji nodded. That's fine. Just as the eagle demon thought it would get away with its life, Zhongli suddenly asked. Have you ever thought about one thing? Can the flying boat fly after it has been robbed of its spirit stones? Huh. The two instantly grasped what he meant. Yes, the eagle demon simply robs the spirit stones. But without the spirit stones, the spiritual energy of the people on the boat is not enough to land the boat. Even if the boat lands, it will land in the territory of the White Marsh Emperor. The fate of a group of practitioners with depleted spiritual energy in the White Marsh Emperor's domain is clear. Perhaps feeling that their intelligence was being insulted, the two did not go easy on the eagle demon, whose end was quite unpleasant. That's why I say, don't always rely on treasures, use your brain more. You should have thought of it even without a true word post. The fact that the eagle demon stole the spirit stones would definitely lead to the death of the passengers. When Zhongli asked how they intended to deal with the eagle demon, he wanted to see how far they could think. As expected, they could only think one step at a time, foolishly using the true word post to test its truth. But they didn't ask the right questions and nearly let go of this murderous eagle demon, believing it to be a good demon. Zhongli continued to teach the two juniors, wondering how on earth they made it to the nascent soul stage. He certainly wasn't so naive when he was at that stage. He felt like all the previous human emperors had died in battle, while he would die of overexertion. Couldn't they give him a break? Zhongli decided to treat this immortal artifact evaluation convention as a vacation and definitely wouldn't interfere anymore. Even the human emperor needs a vacation. New task. Although you ranked first, your classmates laugh at you for your low cultivation level and say you don't deserve the first place. They want you to drop out. Please make a significant appearance in the cultivation test at the end of the semester. This task is available. Abandon. Quote. Without even looking at the reward, Zhongli gave up directly. Since he couldn't reach the immortal realm relying on the system, why bother with the tasks? Could it possibly release another mystery of the immortal realm task? About 10 days later, the flying boat finally landed near the Tao sect. As soon as they disembarked, they were warmly welcomed by Bai Hongtu, the Tao sect master himself. Standing beside him was the embarrassed Confucian sect hierarch Dong Zongren. King Change felt ashamed and wanted to stay on the flying boat. Obviously, his master's stealth plan failed. In the end, it's the Buddhist Wuji who dragged King Change off the flying boat. On behalf of the Tao sect, I warmly welcome the human Emperor Zhongli to attend the Immortal Artifact Evaluation Convention. Tao sect Master Bai Hongtu gave Zhongli a big laugh and a hug. Zhongli also laughed and hugged him back, lightly patting Bai Hongtu's back. With a smile on his face, Bai Hongtu endured the pain. Behind Bai Hongtu, thousands of Tao sect disciples bowed and unanimously said, "Welcome, human Emperor Zhong." It was evident that Bai Hongtu was genuinely delighted to welcome Zhongli. "And the holy woman of pure heart. It's been many years, and your relationship with the human emperor seems to be the same as ever." The holy woman pure heart struggled to smile and didn't strike out on the spot. "I've always wanted to ask you, how is the research on the great array of JoJo coming along? Is it almost finished?" Bai Hongtu grimaced and complained. "You come and ask this kind of upsetting question first. The hair on my head is almost falling out due to the research on the JoJo array. Can we talk about something happier?" Zhongli sneered. "Transcendence tribulation stage can revive with a single drop of blood. I can help you get down to a single drop of blood, and you can revive and regrow hair. Even a landlord wouldn't be as harsh as you." Bai Hongtu immediately smiled and said, "Luckily, I've figured out the JoJo array. Now, all I need is one immortal artifact as the array I." Chapter 48. The oldest person in JoJo. The 9 provinces guardian formation was a concept Zhongli and Bai Hongtu had conceived long ago. The heavenly demons that came from the other worlds always appeared at random locations. Although Zhongli could easily defeat them, he first needed to be aware of their arrival and then rush to their landing spot. The time this would take would be sufficient for the heavenly demons to wreak widespread havoc, resulting in millions of casualties. To reduce casualties and gain time, they gave birth to the idea of the 9 provinces guardian formation. In their vision, this formation would envelop the entire 9 provinces. When a heavenly demon arrived, it would need a quarter of an hour to break through the formation. In the meantime, Zhongli could then receive news of the attack, rush to where the formation was broken, and kill the heavenly demon. However, there were 2 difficulties with this formation. The first was the constant maintenance of this grand formation, which required a massive spirit energy. Zhongli summoned the 6 major sects and 9 empires to rotate in providing 6 body integration realm cultivators. The imperial palace provided 2 more, totaling 8, to continuously supply spiritual energy to maintain the formation. Even though the 6 major sects and 9 empires were powerful, they were powerless against the heavenly demons. No one wished to be killed by a suddenly appearing heavenly demon, so they all agreed to Zhongli's proposal. The second problem was the enormity of this formation. No formation had ever encompassed all of 9 provinces before. It wasn't as simple as just enlarging the formation. They had to consider the terrain, the transportation of spiritual energy, and other issues, which made the design of the formation exceedingly challenging. Even a body integration realm cultivator would have to pour their heart and soul into the design. It was for this reason that Bai Hongtu only started designing it after breaking through to the Transcendence Tribulation stage. Using an immortal artifact for the eye of the formation. Although he was not informed beforehand, Zhongli was not surprised. This formation had a significant function, so naturally, it needed a treasure capable of shouldering such a colossal responsibility to serve as the eye. "Yes, I asked the old sage of longevity. He said that the yin-yang heaven seal can bridge heaven and earth. It has the power of spiritual enlightenment, making it the most suitable for being the eye of the formation." "Is the sage of longevity still doing well?" Zhongli asked curiously. "Of course, considering his lively spirit, I will probably die of old age while he is still alive. Do you want to see him? I have a few questions to ask him. Can I also come to visit the old sage of longevity?" The sacred lady of pure heart pointed to herself. She had only heard of the old sage's reputation, but she had never seen him before. "Yes, the old sage loves lively events. He will be glad to have more people," Bai Hongtu nodded. "I still need to prepare for the Immortal Artifact Appraisal Conference. You two can go ahead. He is at the cave for sealing self." After saying this, Bai Hongtu hurriedly left. Dong Zongren had heard from Wang Bian that his secret had been exposed to Zhongli, so he felt embarrassed to stay and hurriedly left as well. As Buddha Wuji was interested in the Immortal Artifact Appraisal Convention, he also bid farewell to Zhongli and the Sacred Lady of Pure Heart and wandered off enthusiastically. Is the old sage of longevity truly the oldest person in the 9 provinces, and is he truly an immortal? On the way to the Cave of Sealing Self, the Sacred Lady of Pure Heart asked. "He is indeed an immortal. As for the age issue, it depends on how old your master Hongchen is, excluding the uncertain Hongchen immortal maiden, he is indeed the oldest person." I suspect he is a disciple of the heavenly Tao, but he has always denied it. Before becoming the human emperor, Zhongli frequently asked the old sage for advice and held him in high respect. The sacred lady of pure heart was slightly surprised. If he truly was a disciple of the heavenly Tao, then the old sage was indeed, as his name suggested, living for an extraordinary length of time, even immortality. A disciple of the heavenly Tao would be at least 50,000 years old. Body integration realm cultivators could live for 2,000 to 3,000 years, witnessing the rise and fall of countless forces throughout their long lives. But the old sage had witnessed the growth and demise of countless body integration realm cultivators. When 9 provinces still had connections with the immortal realm, many immortals visited 9 provinces but always returned to the immortal realm after a few hundred years. Only the old sage, a native of the 9 provinces, found 9 provinces more comforting than the immortal realm, returned to 9 provinces, and never left again. Zhongli figured he planned to retire in 9 provinces. But, thanks to this oldister, many puzzles were solved, such as what was in the immortal realm, how to become an immortal, that there was more beyond the transcendence tribulation stage to becoming an immortal, and that Hongshan immortal maiden was an incarnation of heavenly Tao's beauty. Moreover, when the previous human emperors failed to stop the heavenly demons, the old sage would step in to assist, slaying the heavenly demon. But he could only provide help a limited number of times. After becoming an immortal, all the spirit energy would be fully transformed into immortal power, which was only available in the immortal realm. After descending to the mortal world, the immortal power in an immortal's body would decrease with every use. When the old sage descended, he planned to replenish his immortal power in the immortal realm. Sadly, there were problems with the stairway to becoming an immortal, and he couldn't go to the immortal realm. That was troublesome. Once his immortal power was exhausted, his body would collapse, and he would suffer from the 5 decay syndrome for immortals and die. Thus, he did his best not to employ his power. "Old sage, are you home? I've come with more questions." Zhongli shouted in front of the stone door of the cave for sealing self. The stone door then opened on its own. Upon entering, they found that the cave was filled with ancient books, neatly shelving on the bookshelves, while others were scattered all over the ground. Of course, ancient is relative to the old sage. To him, these books were just recently published. Every time you come, you always have questions. Can't you just visit this old man for no reason? The old sage pretended to be very indignant, but the sacred lady of pure heart could tell that he was glad Zhongli had come. You even brought someone else with you. That's rare. The old sage resembled an ordinary old man seen in the countryside with his skinny body, stooped back, age spots, and calloused hands. He was wearing common coarse hemp clothes. This was a manifestation of his life energy condensed to the extreme. The old sage considered the Zhongli who was hailed as the human emperor and felt a great sense of awe. Who could have expected the young child who was at the nascent soul stage then to now be so profound? Being an immortal, he couldn't accurately judge how strong Zhongli was. "This girl looks quite pretty. Which family's child is she?" In response to the old sage, "Pure Heart is from the Red Dust Pure Land. She is the descendant of Master Hongshan. Hongshan Immortal Maiden, that's a name I haven't heard in a long time." The old sage chuckled and warmly invited them in, even offering their finest spiritual tea and pastries. All 3 of them were fasting, but that didn't mean they couldn't enjoy good food. The sacred lady of pure heart had a feeling that after hearing that she was the descendant of Master Hongshan, the old sage's attitude towards her warmed considerably. The way he looked at her had also changed. His gaze seemed to carry the kind of indulgent affection like one would have for their own flesh and blood. He saw the Hongshan Immortal Maiden with his own eyes. Zhongli explained to the sacred lady of pure heart. Realizing this, the sacred lady of pure heart understood that the old sage was still missing her ancestor, Master Hongshan. Chapter 49. Solutions. Given that Elder Immortal Chengkun is up in his years and shouldn't be exposed to any extreme joy or grief, Zhongli decided to ask the question in a more gentle manner. "What do you make of the revival of the Red Dust Fairy?" Elder Immortal Chengkun's blood boiled with excitement. He abruptly stood up and cast several high-level cleansing spells on himself, his back straightening. He began primping himself in the mirror and putting on his celestial robes. Pure Heart Saintess blinked, and the old farmer laboring in the field suddenly turned into a refined and elegant old man. Without uttering a word, Elder Immortal Chengkun transformed into a beam of light and flew towards the cleansed land of red dust. Just before he could fly out of the cave, Zhongli grabbed his ankle and yanked him back. "Let go of me. Let me go. Don't obstruct my pursuit of love." Elder Immortal Chengkun struggled, but the grip of Zhongli's hands was so strong that he couldn't budge. "Is that what you call love? I'm embarrassed to even say, Zhang Li scoffed. When the red dust fairy first descended to the lower realm, it caused quite a stir. Seeing this, Elder Immortal Cheng Kun gave in to his interest, went to take a look, and immediately fell to his knees, claiming he had found love and would worship the red dust fairy for the rest of his life. Only after calming down did he proclaim that the red dust fairy was the embodiment of the beauty of the heavenly Tao. He felt embarrassed to mention this in front of Pure Heart Saintess. Let go of me, stop bullying elders. Pure Heart Saintess watched this spectacle in surprise, not because of Elder Cheng Kun's loss of control, but because Zhang Li could easily overpower a real immortal. After a good while, Elder Immortal Cheng Kun managed to calm down. You've just witnessed the charm of the red dust fairy, so irresistible even to an immortal, Zhang Li said to Pure Heart Saintess. The example before her was quite convincing. She had never seen the loss of composure in the likes of Meng Zhang Emperor and others, and she wasn't aware of the reasons behind Zhang Aile's rebellion. This was the first time Pure Heart Saintess met someone who went mad because of the red dust fairy, and that someone was an immortal. So, has the red dust fairy really resurrected? Even though Elder Cheng Kun knew Zhang Li wouldn't trick him about such a matter, he still couldn't help but ask. Zhang Li and Pure Heart Saintess recounted the whole incident to Elder Immortal Cheng Kun. After mulling over the details for a moment, Elder Cheng Kun said, "It appears to be the birth of a new soul in a divine body. This has happened in the immortal realm before. After an immortal dies and the immortal power remains in the body without dissipating, the body doesn't decay. Over time, it could possibly develop spiritual intelligence and, without the original memories of the body, become a brand new existence. This is most likely to occur in body cultivators who have transformed into immortals. Didn't you propose a theory about the birth of new souls? The birth of a spirit in a divine body is such a case, be it spiritual power or immortal power, it can ultimately result in the creation of a new soul. Then why does she keep sleeping? It's a psychological issue. A newly born soul knows nothing about itself or the world, yet it wields enormous power. They feel lost and scared, often resorting to sleep to escape. After you told the red dust fairy some stories about her, she gradually reduced her sleeping time. This indicates a process of her gradually accepting herself." Elder Immortal Cheng Kun, who had spent tens of thousands of years in the immortal realm and had seen a great deal, could make reasonable conjectures simply by listening to the story, solving Zhang Li's doubts with a few sentences. Seeing the eager look on Elder Cheng Kun's face, Zhang Li warned. "Don't you even think of sneaking into the cleansed land of red dust while the red dust fairy is newly born." "How could I? Do you think I'm that kind of person?" Feeling that Zhang Li was insulting his character, Elder Cheng Kun turned his head away, not daring to look at him. How did this kid see through his intentions? "I'm not joking with you. What should we do about the red dust fairy? If she decides to leave the cleansed land, should we let her? I'm still at a loss. Right now, only a handful of people know about her, don't add to the chaos." Seeing that Zhang Li was serious, Elder Cheng Kun knew he was not joking. The fact that he was told about the resurrection of the red dust fairy was a sign of his trust. As his elder, he certainly couldn't betray his trust. "All right, I get it." Seeing Elder Cheng Kun making a solemn promise, Zhang Li finally let go of his tense expression. "There's another thing." Zhang Li then informed Elder Cheng Kun about the black-clad man spreading the way of the demonic arts and laying out his plans hundreds of years in advance. Zhang Yixing's practice of demonic arts was discovered more than 2 months ago and he had long been executed. As his elder cousin, Zhang Li personally took Zhang Yixing to jail. The news had spread across the Zhou states, causing a great sensation. Some people believed that Zhang Li was right to put family ties aside in the face of justice, while others thought that Zhang Li should have executed Zhang Yixing as soon as he discovered him practicing demonic arts, without resorting to legal procedures. Yet others thought that Zhang Li was inhuman for putting his own brother in jail. No one questioned whether Zhang Li was also practicing the demonic arts. The most straightforward impact of this incident was that the speed at which the bronze ding in the Imperial Palace collected faith power had slowed down slightly. However, Elder Cheng Kun, who had been living in Dao sect for many years, and Pure Heart Saintess, who had just emerged from the mountain, were unaware of this. How could this black-clothed man be able to make preparations so far in advance? If it wasn't for the fact that I am strong enough not to require faith power, his cunning plan might have worked. Now Zhang Li didn't think that it was merely a coincidence that somebody had taught Zhang Yixing the demonic arts. Whoever could effortlessly help Zhang Yixing advance from the foundation establishment stage to golden core stage will have to be at least in the late stages of divinity transformation. At that time, Zhang Yixing had average talents and didn't have any influence. Who would take the trouble to teach him the demonic arts? Zhongli saw this as a plot against him, or rather, against the human emperor. Elder Changkun kept silent while stroking his beard. After a while, he slowly said, "Someone must either have seen your future through time Dao or is highly proficient in fate Dao or observation magic, realizing that you are destined to be the human emperor, or has observed that you possess the aura of the human emperor." The time Dao was not exclusive to the great Zhou dynasty family. It was possible that some hidden cultivator had learned it. Fate Dao, observation magic. Zhongli was somewhat unfamiliar with these terms. It's normal that you don't know. Fate Dao is centered around fate. What is fated to be yours will be, regardless of the means of acquisition, while those things for which you lack fate will dissipate no matter how much you try. Observation magic believes that everyone has a certain aura above their head, and depending on the color of this aura, people's achievements will vary. These are long-lost cultivation methods. However, it's not uncommon for some old temples or Taoist temples to have such cultivation methods left behind by chance. Despite gaining some clues, Zhongli was unsure where to start looking. Why would anyone want to sabotage the human emperor's faith? Pure Heart Saintess didn't understand. Does weakening the human emperor benefit the black-clad man? But then, who will resist the heaven's demon? This seemed like a simple logic, but both Zhongli and Elder Changkun had overlooked it. Only when Pure Heart Saintess unintentionally pointed it out did they realize it. They looked at each other, confirming the answer in their hearts. The weakening of the human emperor would only benefit the heaven's demon. There was a traitor in Jojo. Or perhaps, the heavenly demon had snuck into Jojo. Chapter 50. Speaking is prohibited on the commercial street. The Dao Sect's Immortal Artifact Appreciation Fair is a well-known event across Kyushu as it takes place only once a century. All cultivators can participate. For those who possess immortal artifacts, it's an invaluable opportunity to mingle and, as the name belies, use their immortal artifacts to duel. Other cultivators can witness these duels, trade treasures, and showcase their own treasures. The various trading houses are keenly anticipating the event and have already set up stalls here. Temporarily, they had set up a sub-branch of the Dao sect to sell and auction treasures, all prepared for a grand event. With the auspice of the Dao sect, no man dared to leverage their cultivation to strong-arm prices, nor did anyone dare commit murder to snatch goods after the auction. More than 80 years have passed since the last Immortal Artifact Appreciation Fair. This time, however, the fair was convened earlier due to the self-refined Yin-Yang Heaven seal. "Are you going to the shopping street?" Zhongli asked after leaving the ceiling. Self-cave. Pure Heart Saintess was taken aback. She wanted to visit the shopping street, not necessarily to buy anything, but she definitely wanted to stroll around. Having encountered Zhongli's character, she considered that if she revealed her intentions, he might just say, "You stroll, I gotta go." So, contrary to her heart's desires, she said, "No, there's nothing worthwhile in the shopping street. I won't go." "Oh, in that case, you go on, I'll have a walk around." On finishing, Zhongli walked away, leaving behind the confused Pure Heart Saintess standing alone in the wind. Annoyed, Pure Heart Saintess stamped her foot. Gritting her teeth, she decided to follow after him. Just as Zhongli had decided before, he had come to the convention to take a vacation. As such, he had no particular agenda, merely a desire to roam around and visit friends. Didn't you think the shopping street was pointless? Zhongli, walking alone, was surprised when Pure Heart Saintess caught up so quickly. "Ah, such a beautiful flower." Unable to answer Zhongli's question, Pure Heart Saintess turned her head, pretending to be attracted by the flowers and plants for sale. The flower she noticed was, indeed, beautiful. Its petals and stigma were snow white. A thin layer of frost was even cuddling the petals, emitting a colorful glow under the sunlight. "Miss, you have good eyes. I had to squat for a month in the extreme cold just to find this ice crystal flower. It's incredibly beneficial for those with an ice spiritual root. It can also enhance the feeling of intense frost." The vendor enthusiastically recommended the ice crystal flower. Ice spiritual root is a variant of natural spirit root, a fewer number of cultivators possess it. He brought the ice crystal flower to the Immortal Artifact Appreciation Fair, hoping for a lucky sale. He thought Pure Heart Saintess was a cultivator with an ice spiritual root. Pure Heart Saintess asked for the price, bargained none and bought it directly. She possessed a wood spiritual root, so the ice crystal flower was of no use to her. It wasn't a problem though, as long as it looked good. Pure Heart Saintess, rich and enchanting, bought anything that caught her eye, disregarding authenticity or usefulness. She had one standard: it had to look good. Charming and lavish Pure Heart Saintess quickly captured people's attention. Zhongli, on the other hand, wearing a mask that resembled him, went unnoticed. It was a mask of the human emperor, popular amongst the children and sold for a low-grade spirit stone each. Such a beautiful woman, bring her to me, I want her to be the consort of my 8th imperial son, commanded the youngest son of Emperor Wei to his subordinate. The subordinate hesitated for a moment before advising, before leaving, the Empress advised you not to stir trouble at the Tao sect. Currently, Emperor Wei was engrossed in his sorrow of never being able to meet fairy red dust again, had no interest in politics or participating in the fair, thus he sent his youngest son to represent him at the Tao sect fair. With one fierce glare from the youngest imperial son, the subordinate dare not speak any further. Everyone knew about his arrogance due to Emperor Wei's favor, his tyranny and merciless way of handling people. Were there a choice, none of them would prefer to serve the young royal son. We received a complaint about a disturbance caused by you. Come with us. 2 emotionless Tao sect disciples approached the young royal son. Seeing his eminence not moving, they were ready to take actions. How dare you? I am the royal son of the Great Wei. The young royal son of Emperor Wei felt threatened. The 6 major sects and the 9 major emperor dynasties are equivalent in terms of status. He, the royal son, is equivalent to a Tao sect core disciple. How dare the Tao sect treated him like this? The 2 core disciples of the Tao sect sneered. No matter who you are, even your father, causing disturbance near the human emperor is intolerable. Symbolically the subordinate resisted, then dumbstruck, watched as the royal son was taken away by the Tao sect. I am at the divinity transformation stage, it's normal that I could not defeat a Tao sect nascent soul stage, right? What have I done, that you are taking me away? Seeing his subordinate not defending him, the Tao sect disregarding him, the youngest royal son of emperor was frantic. I haven't done any wrong yet. Talking is prohibited in the shopping street. The youngest son of Emperor Wei looked disbelievingly at the bustling shopping street. This reason is too absurd. If you had said that I stepped into the shopping street with my left foot, I might have accepted it. No, I wouldn't accept even that. Tao sect's core disciples didn't care about his thoughts and dragged him away. From Zhong Li's perspective, the shopping street is full of opportunities to pick up unrecognized treasures. The grass was engraved with unparalleled swordsmanship, the dew dish was actually the key to a secret area, the monster beast's leg bone contained a drop of body integration realm monster beast's true blood, and so on. If Zhong Li wanted to, he could find 99% of the good things in the shopping street. However, these things were useless to him, better if these objects are left for the younger generation. Zhong Li saw a flyer for an auction and decided to take a look inside. Top-grade spirit treasure, demon-slaying flying sword, its power increases by 30% when used against the demon clan, starting bid at 500 low-grade spirit stones. 512, 1024, 2048. 4096. Zhong Li started, and the rest followed, bidding in an exponential increase which caused the auctioneer's face to twitch. In his 30 years of career, he never saw such style of bidding. Couldn't they round it up? What's more interesting was that, with most of the interest for the flying sword coming from the demons, they pushed the price higher and it was eventually sold to one of them. Why did this happen? Pure Heart Saintess didn't understand. She speculated that people from around White Marsh Emperor dynasty would be interested in the flying sword, since they face the threat of demonic beasts almost all the time. Imagine overpowering your opponent with such ease. That's how the demons think, Zhong Li helplessly explained. Beating their own kind, survival of the fittest, the strongest being revered, bloodline superiority in some, they lack unity and ambition. Subsequent items on stage include the top-grade lifespan extension pill, Dragon Tiger Strength Pill, Yu Heng Bronze Mirror, Buddha Beads, and so on, which were thankfully received by the cultivators present. However, for Zhong Li and Pure Heart Saintess, these were all normal items. Even if given for free, they would not know what to do with them. The last mysterious grand finale item was a Tao artifact, a hammer imbued with the Path of Dreams. It could render someone unconscious and trap them in a dream. Zhong Li pondered for a long time, but still could not figure out exactly what this hammer was good for. Chapter 51. Zhou Huang gets beaten up. All things under heaven, all come from the Tao sect. This is a widely circulated saying in JoJo, which, although somewhat exaggerated, is sufficient to illustrate the position of the Tao sect in JoJo. There are 4 main types of external power that cultivators commonly borrow: medicinal pills, spiritual treasures, runes, and formations. The Alchemy Peak, Artifact Refinement Peak, Rune Peak, and Array Formation Peak of the Tao sect are the leaders in these 4 types of external forces. No matter how anyone wishes to learn these 4 kinds of external forces, it is impossible to avoid the Tao sect. Zhang Li and the Saintess of Pure Heart arrived at the entrance of Artifact Refinement Peak and saw a 7 or 8-year-old girl standing there with several guards nearby. Even though they tried to conceal their cultivation level, Zhang Li could sense that the strongest among these guards was of the body integration realm, and the rest were also experts at the divinity transformation stage. They must belong to a powerful family. "Uncle, you can't go in," the little girl stopped Zhang Li as he was about to enter. "My father and Uncle Feng are refining artifacts inside. My father said no one can go in before the refinement is completed." "What a cute little girl, what's your name?" The Saintess of Pure Heart found the little girl charming and touched her head. "Don't touch me." The little girl shook her head vigorously to escape from the Saintess of Pure Heart's palm. She put her hands on her hips and said, "Humph. I am the 19th princess of the Great Zhou, Ji Kong Kong." "Oh, so your father is Ji." Zhang Li's interest was piqued. He hadn't expected to meet Emperor Ji of Zhou here. The Tao sect master, Bai Hongtu, must have learned about Zhang Li's cover as a Tao sect disciple from Ji. "Uncle, do you know my father?" Ji Kong Kong, seeing Zhang Li wearing the human emperor mask, took a liking to him. She also admired Emperor Zhang Li very much. How could anyone who admired the emperor be a bad person? Ji Kong Kong thought so. Obviously, she didn't know about her third brother's affairs. Several guards surrounded the 3 of them, intending to protect Ji Kong Kong. The lead guard asked, "Do you two amo our sovereign?" The guards were nervous. They couldn't measure the strength of these 2 people. Both were definitely experts at the body integration realm. If they had ill intentions towards the princess, they would be helpless. "Don't be so tense." Zhang Li laughed, took off his mask, and revealed a face identical to the one on the mask. "After all, I'm an old friend of your sovereign." Zhou Emperor's guards pay respects to Emperor Zhang Li. Recognizing it was Zhang Li, they relaxed immediately and saluted promptly. Ji Kong Kong's mouth was wide open, big enough to swallow an egg. "Uncle, you're Emperor Zhang Li. My father told me about you." "Oh, what did he say?" "Father said that you are a great hero in JoJo, a true immortal reincarnated. He told me about your journey to become the human emperor, and how you endured numerous hardships. He told me the story of how you protected JoJo and fought with my father against the heavenly demons." Ji Kong Kong was dancing with excitement as she repeated the bedtime stories that Emperor Ji used to tell her. "Ha ha ha, I never knew that Ji saw me like this," laughed Zhang Li, deciding to go easy on Ji when he beat him up later. "Aren't artifact refinements supposed to be quiet? What's Ji doing inside? He can't refine." Zhang Li laughed. "You forget about Ji's double pupils, they're a big help in artifact refinement." Inside the Artifact Refinement Peak, Ji and Chief of Artifact Refinement Peak were hard at work studying artifact refinement. "What if we increase the firepower by 10% half an hour later, would it be successful?" The Chief of Artifact Refinement Peak was doodling on a piece of paper. It was covered with the refining process. He scratched and altered it, making it look messy. Refining possessed the risk of blowing up the furnace, which would render more than half of the materials inside useless. Therefore, the Chief of Artifact Refinement Peak would usually calculate multiple times to achieve the correct refining process before starting. The process included the intensity of fire, materials, style and so on. It was a very meticulous task. However, this time with Ji's help, things were much easier. Ji's double pupils became deep and mysterious, as if they could perceive everything. "No, it will still blow up." Ji foresaw that the furnace would fail under this process. What if we replace Tianshan pure water with Snow Mountain pure water?" "No, this time the explosion is even bigger. Then, hey, it will succeed this time." After multiple attempts, they finally confirmed the successful process. Ji was panting heavily. Using his double pupils to look into the past and future was labor-consuming, even though he was good at it. As a result, he usually wouldn't use his eyes recklessly. Ji's expression suddenly soured. "What's wrong? I saw that I'm going to be beaten up when I go out later." "Who is it?" The Chief of Artifact Refinement Peak was curious, thinking there was nothing to worry about since Ji could foresee the future and avoid danger. "It's Zhang Li." The Chief of Artifact Refinement Peak was silent for a moment. Without needing to ask, he guessed that Ji, who often gossiped too much, must have accidentally offended Zhang Li. He patted Ji on the shoulder. "I'll go to Alchemy Peak to find a great resurrection pill. If things get really bad, I have friends in the corpse-driving sect." Quote. He then pushed open the door without giving Ji an opportunity to escape. Your heart is as black as the bottom of a furnace. Gigi cursed before he saw Zhongli stroll in, smiling, and then shut the door. If they were in the territory of Great Zhou, he might be confident enough to deal with Zhongli, but in the Dao sect. Don't hit my face. Fair enough. After a one-sided and intense face-off, Zhongli, refreshed and invigorated, left the Artifact Refinement Peak. He went to Alchemy Peak with the Saintess of Pure Heart to visit the Chief of Dan Refining Peak, who evidently had no intention of finding any pill. Several days later, the long-anticipated Immortal Artifact exhibition of all the forces finally arrived. Although it was called an exhibition, it was essentially a competition. The Human Emperor's Palace, 6 major sects, 9 empires, and 4 seas, all these forces sent representatives to sit in the stands. Of course, some forces didn't have anyone to send, such as the Great Wei Empire. Behind these people was a temporarily constructed high platform. On top of the platform was a seal that emitted a faint glow, with yin and yang fishes rotating and biting each other's tails at the back. Many people saw the yin-yang heaven seal for the first time. They felt that this seal was as vast as heaven and earth, unfathomably deep, containing the forces that could shatter the heavens. It also felt as though it was the cause of all things and the result of all causes, as if all cause and effect were condensed onto this seal. They even felt that they were destined to possess this seal, as though their fate was intertwined with it. If it were not for the multitude of influential figures sitting on the stage, some people might be tempted to fight for possession of the seal. This was the power of the yin-yang heaven seal, which could not only enliven all things but also launch causal attacks, leaving people defenseless. The old man of everlasting existence once said that even in the immortal realm, the yin-yang heaven seal was an extraordinary immortal artifact. The arena was set up in the sky instead of the ground because those at the body integration realm were battling with their immortal artifacts, and the effects were widespread. If it were on the ground, their movements would be restricted. The Dao sect set up a defensive formation above everyone's heads to block the residual waves of the fight. Chapter 52. Game Commentary. The competition is about to begin. The first contestant to enter the stage is Bai Hongtu of the Dao sect. As one in the Transcendence Tribulation stage, what fascinating performance will he present? Let's wait and see. Okay, we see contestant Bai Hongtu, despite being in the Transcendence Tribulation stage, shamelessly chose to challenge the sect hierarch of Confucianism, a competitor who is only in the body integration realm, Dong Zhang. Contestant Dong Zhang ignores Bai Hongtu's invitation. How should Bai Hongtu respond? Bai Hongtu challenges him. Bai Hongtu is provoking Dong Zhang. The provocation is extremely offensive. Such words would indeed stir the anger of anyone. As a host, if I were to hear such words, I would definitely pick a fight. I wonder how the sect hierarch of Confucianism, renowned for his qi cultivation, will respond. As expected, we see contestant Dong Zhang trembling with rage. Contestant Dong Zhang accepts the challenge. He accepts the challenge. Bai Hongtu's tactics are indeed low level, yet they seem to be working. Let's applaud for Dong Zhang's courage. Zhongli suddenly claps, which surprises the holy maiden Pure Heart sitting beside him. Zhongli continues with his inner monologue. It seems we are fortunate to witness the Confucian sect's Great Confucian Word Post today. Contestant Dong Zhang takes out the Great Confucian Word Post. It's the real Great Confucian Word Post. It's a real immortal artifact. The two contestants fly into the air. Dong Zhang attempts to reason with Bai Hongtu, trying to persuade him to give up the fight. Let's listen to what they are discussing. This is the Immortal Artifact Appreciation Conference. You should use an immortal weapon in your fight. Your Dao sect's only immortal artifact is displayed on the stage. What will you use in the fight? You can't say that. After all, this is a conference organized by our Dao sect. How could we not participate in the fight? Otherwise, it seems that our Dao sect does not exist. Come on, I will not bully you and I will fight with you without any weapons while you hold the immortal artifact. We see Dong Zhang is still trying to persuade Bai Hongtu. But Bai Hongtu disregards martial ethics. He strikes even before the match begins. He, being in the Transcendence Tribulation stage, sneak attacked someone in the body integration realm. Please forgive your host for cursing. Bai Hongtu, you. Dong Zhang started writing on the Great Confucian Word Post. He wrote the character for roll. He's sticking it on contestant Bai Hongtu. He was successful. How will Bai Hongtu respond? He's taking off his clothes. He's taking off his clothes. He's shedding his Taoist robe. Bai Hongtu's Taoist robe has rolled away. Bai Hongtu is still standing in place. He is unscathed. What a fantastic fight. Cultivators, please don't scramble for Bai Hongtu's Taoist robe. Please maintain order, even though it's embarrassing. That robe is a Taoist artifact, please pick it up. We bring the scene back to you. Dong Zhang wrote another character, again sticking it on Bai Hongtu. Bai Hongtu took off another Taoist robe. How many of them did he wear? It seems he came prepared today. Did the attempt by Dong Zhang fail this time? No, it's not like that. Bai Hongtu's robe assumed a fighting stance and started fighting with Bai Hongtu. So, this time Dong Zhang wrote the character for fight. The fight word post that can let anything fight for him. Dong Zhang followed up swiftly, writing 3 battle characters in a row. We can see that the 3 battle word posts have transformed into 3 golden armored divine beings, each of them at the peak of the body integration realm. Let me explain to everyone, these 3 armored divine beings are the guardians of the Confucian sect. Every time a disciple of the Confucian sect breaks through to the body integration realm, they leave their reflection on the great Confucian word post. All you need to do is write the battle word post, and these reflections will transform into the guardian gods of the Confucian sect to protect the Confucian sect. Okay, as we can see, the fight is very fierce. Bai Hongtu is at a disadvantage. He's being attacked by his own Taoist robe and 3 golden armored divine beings wielding long swords, while also having to be on guard against Dong. Bai Hongtu has started to vomit blood. He's being beaten miserably. Please don't worry, those in the Transcendence Tribulation stage can regenerate with a drop of blood. The injuries Bai Hongtu sustained are merely superficial. Bai Hongtu took the initiative to fight back. He kicked a divine armored person flying. He injured Dong Zhang. The scene of the fight is very cruel. A friendly reminder, underage cultivators should watch with the company of an adult cultivator. How will contestant Dong Zhang respond? He wrote the return word post. He returned to the state he was in at the beginning. Bai Hongtu started to use his Taoist techniques. A rolling river stretches across the sky. It's Tao sect's technique, reverse river skyfall. The river rushes towards Dong Zhang. With an awe-inspiring momentum, Dong Zhang collected it using the collect word post. The fight is fierce. Bai Hongtu keeps using Taoist techniques, while Dong Zhang responds continuously using the word posts. They are giving each other a good fight. Please forgive your host for his limited vocabulary. Contestant Dong Zhang wrote a death word post. He stuck it on Bai Hongtu's forehead. Bai Hongtu's soul is leaving his body. He's readying a soul attack. Will Dong Zhang be able to withstand it? Alright, it seems the 2 contestants have realized that this is merely a friendly match, and their actions just now were somewhat excessive. We see the 2 contestants shaking hands and making peace. They shake hands for a bit too long. It seems like Bai Hongtu's veins are bulging, and Dong Zhang is holding the strength word post. The 2 contestants finally let go of each other's hands, and the first round of the competition came to a successful conclusion. Why do I feel like you were quite active internally just now? Asked the holy maiden Pure Heart with curiosity to Zhang Li. There's no basis for this feeling, but she trusts her instincts. Not at all, Zhang Li said without any expression on his face. If they were to keep fighting just now, who would have won? The holy maiden Pure Heart no longer dwelled on the previous question. Dong Zhang used his full strength, but Bai Hongtu had ample reserves. He didn't use any formation or talisman tactics. Besides, the difference in combat experience between the 2 is too great. Dong Zhang is no match for Bai Hongtu. Quote, I heard that an immortal artifact can make up for the gap between the body integration realm and the Transcendence Tribulation stage, right? You are talking about offensive immortal artifacts. Like the Mount Heshan of Penglai Fairy Island, if the island master of Penglai fights while holding Mount Heshan, Bai Hongtu can only take his beating. The human emperor regards me highly. The conversation between the 2 was open, and the nearby Penglai Island master couldn't help but laugh. The Penglai Island master, Mo Ruiyu, is an extremely attractive woman, with a teardrop mole at the corner of her eye. With a cultivation base at the peak of the body integration realm, she was already the island master of Penglai Island when Zhang Li was just at the Qi cultivation stage. Oh, not at all. Just stating the truth. I wonder which immortal artifact you would like to challenge. The stupa of the Buddha's heaven from Buddhism, the Ruyi gourd from Tianyuan Emperor Dynasty, or the past and present sword from Zhou Emperor Dynasty. The Buddha is not here, and I've fought with the Ruyi gourd several times. However, I've never tested the past and present sword from the Zhou dynasty before. I've heard that it can disrupt time and space. GG, let me experience your Zhou dynasty's past and present sword. The island master Mo Ruiyu of Penglai Island stood up and spoke to GG. GG naturally agreed. Being in Tao sect, with the blessing of national destiny, he could only reach the peak of the body integration realm, just right for a fight with Mo Ruiyu. Chapter 53, past and present sword. Just as its name suggested, Mount Heshan stone was a mere pebble. Yet, it was a top-tier immortal artifact weapon with a unique quality: every object thrown would invariably hit its target. The holder of Mount Heshan stone, Lord Mo of the body integration realm, was an invincible existence. Even Zhang Konggu, famous for his body cultivation, could be mortally injured by being hit directly with it. Nevertheless, Gigi was not afraid in the slightest. Faced with the incoming Mount Heshan stone, Gigi gently swung his sword. The speed of the stone immediately slowed, and by the time it reached Gigi, it no longer posed any threat. Is this the power of time? The Saintess of Pure Heart uttered hesitantly. She had heard of the great reputation of the past and present sword. The sword was a fishbone weapon refined from the mold of their ancestor, the fish in the river of time and space, during its ascension. It had the power to influence time and space, but how exactly it was applied, she had no clue. Yes, he disrupted the time and space surrounding the Mount Heshan stone with this stroke, causing it to fly for several years. The Mount Heshan stone, having run out of momentum but still determined to hit its target due to its nature, could only continue flying towards Gigi. Zhang Li saw clearer than the Saintess of Pure Heart. This swing seemed unremarkable, but it conveyed something truly terrifying. Taking advantage of the time Lord Mo spent retrieving her Mount Heshan stone, Gigi rushed forward and repeatedly hacked at her with his sword. Just as Lord Mo dodged a stroke, another, seemingly predicted cut, arrived. This occurred several times in succession, causing her to sustain many sword injuries. She frowned at Gigi's eyes and suddenly realized. It was not the doing of the past and present sword, but rather Gigi's double pupils that could foresee the future, causing his swordsmanship to be so prophetic that it hit her directly every time. Having realized this, she understood that engaging Gigi in close combat would be to her disadvantage, so she put some distance between them and once again threw out the Mount Heshan stone. Mount Heshan stone split into thousands, completely blocking Gigi's access to all directions, leaving him no choice but to take it head-on. Unexpectedly, Gigi held the sword with both hands across his chest. The thousands of high-speed approaching Mount Heshan stones suddenly slowed down as they approached him. As if forming an area with Gigi at the center, within this domain, time seemed to be infinitely stretched. Suddenly, a sword chi appeared out of nowhere at the position where Lord Mo stood. Unable to avoid it in time, she was hurt by the sword chi and instinctively tried to move to a new position, only to be cut off once more. No matter where Lord Mo went, the unerasable sword chi would appear out of thin air. How do you like the power of the past and present sword, Lord Mo? Gigi, holding the fishbone sword, slightly smiled, not surprised at all by Lord Mo's predicament. Double pupils and the past and present sword really make a perfect match. Lord Mo exclaimed. She understood Gigi's tactics, but currently could not figure out any countermeasures. The power of Mount Heshan stone had not been fully utilized and continued to be counteracted by the past and present sword. At this point, Lord Mo knew she had lost. The fight was frustrating, but a loss was a loss. She accepted the outcome. The sword chi had not injured her fundamentals, which was Gigi showing mercy. What just happened? Saintess Pure Heart couldn't understand what Gigi had done. Zhang Li chuckled lightly. I also learned such a painful lesson. Gigi anticipated the challenge long ago. He used the double pupils to foresee who the challenger would be, and when and where it would be. Then he used the past and present sword to leave a sword chi in that future position. The sword chi left in the past only manifested now. That too is a capability of the past and present sword. Lord Mo lost because she was not familiar with the past and present sword. Mount Heshan stone can attack everything, break through space, and strike the course of time. If Lord Mo knew the capability of the past and present sword, she could have used Mount Heshan stone to strike the course of time, causing ripples in time. The future would become chaotic, and the power of the double pupils and past and present sword would be greatly reduced. In a few words, Zhang Li explained the strategy that could have won Lord Mo the fight, impressing everyone on the stage. East Sea Dragon King, let's fight. Now the only ones left to compete were the wish-fulfilling gourd of the Tianyuan Emperor dynasty and the Dragon Balls of the Four Seas. Everyone initially thought that the Tianyuan Empress was challenging. However, to everyone's surprise, the Tianyuan Empress frowned. Although she indeed intended to challenge the East Sea Dragon King, she hadn't spoken out yet. Even though she admitted her loss, the more Lord Mo thought about it, the angrier she got. She wanted a good fight to let off steam. The East Sea Dragon King, dressed in a green robe with a human body and dragon-like face, reluctantly went onto the battlefield with a bitter expression on his face. People might not understand Lord Mo's abilities, but he certainly did. Among the 6 major sects, only Penglai Fairy Island was based overseas, within the 4 seas, hence their relationship with the Dragon Palace was quite close. If everyone won without using their immortal artifact, Mo Ruiyu could fight against 2 Dragon Kings by herself. When they each used their immortal artifacts, Mo Ruiyu could take on 4. From time to time, the 4 Sea Dragon Kings thought, since we're all divine beasts, why not merge with the White Marsh Emperor dynasty? These humans are just too oppressive. No, this can't be right. I can't think like this. I'm not the same Dragon King as before. Now, I am the East Sea Dragon King, the leader of the 4 Sea Dragon Kings who has cultivated the Zhongli Human Emperor strength. My brothers trust me to lead them to glory. Having thought this through, the East Sea Dragon King suddenly found the strength to go on. After cultivating Zhongli Human Emperor strength, he had never battled with Mo Ruiyu before. Today was the perfect opportunity to make his mark. The East Sea Dragon King lost disastrously, with Bai Hongtu stuffing giant restoration elixirs into his mouth like candy. At this time, the East Sea Dragon King was thinking that usually Mo Ruiyu didn't hit him this hard. Could it be because she understood that there were giant restoration elixirs from the Dao sect backing her up? She decided to hit harder than usual. This old Dragon King has gotten stronger, Mo Ruiyu said with a frown when she returned to the stand. Even though she had defeated the East Sea Dragon King, she could feel that he was indeed stronger than before. Dragons were known for their strong physical constitution, and the East Sea Dragon King's body was much more solid than before. With her immortal artifact, she now felt she could only take on 3 Dragon Kings. As the Zhongli Human Emperor strength, this useful. Being next door to the Dragon Palace, Mo Ruiyu had heard that the Dragon Clan was secretly practicing body cultivation, and she glanced at Zhongli. Zhongli had a feeling he was being stared at. The big brother couldn't resist Mount Heshan stone with 4 Dragon Balls. Luckily he is the one who went up. Yes, otherwise it would be us lying there. The other 3 Dragon Kings were whispering to each other off stage. A tutorial on tools was an opportunity that comes once in 1,000 years. They had to come, but they couldn't go up on stage directly. Being a big brother means leading by example, which in this case meant taking the beating first. To be fair, the defensive power of the Dragon Balls was extremely astonishing. Even though the East Sea Dragon King looked miserable while using 4 Dragon Balls, that was due to the feature of Mount Heshan stone that required it to hit its target, thus bypassing the defense of the Dragon Balls. If Bai Hongtu, even with his Transcendence Tribulation stage cultivation, tried it, he wouldn't be able to make a dent in the Dragon Balls. It's a rock-paper-scissors game among immortal tools. There's no other way. Look, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal is changing. Thank you, my hens and Sir Dark Knight for the monthly tickets you've pledged. This is my first time receiving monthly tickets. Chapter 54. Chaos in the 9 Provinces. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was a jade seal of palm size that now drew the attention of every individual present. Even the ever-living immortal elder who had witnessed the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal self-refining multiple times stepped out of the sealing self-cave, looking at the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal with a gaze full of nostalgia. Without anyone activating it, or any mana fluctuations, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal began to slowly rotate, and the black and white fish, usually twining around the seal, stopped swimming. As the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal revolved, the connection between cause and effect felt even more heavy. Everyone started to feel their connection with the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal deepening. Feeling destined, fated, and connected with the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was only right as the greatest treasure in the land, it was rightfully theirs to possess. Such a thought emerged in everyone's mind, and finally, people could no longer resist laying their hands on it. There was a cultivator at the body integration realm, considered a top expert across the land who believed he had the qualifications to master such a treasure. Before Bai Hongtu could make a move, several body integration realm elders held him down. The Dao sect didn't have much of others, but it had body integration realm elders aplenty. Somewhere in the crowd, several cultivators made a move, not just those at the body integration realm, but even at divinity transformation stage and nascent soul stage also wanted to possess the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. The Heaven Seal clouds people's minds, Zhong Li sighed. The people on the platform also had the thought of, this object is destined for me, but they were able to restrain themselves well. Although the majority of the people were of divinity transformation stage or nascent soul stage, their temperament was better than those cultivators below the stage. Moreover, they knew that if they were daring enough to snatch the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, they would be suppressed by the Dao sect master and the current human emperor. They would lose face completely. The tribulation clouds formed, the heavens might cover the sky, as if the yin-yang heaven seals another rotation would trigger a taboo, not tolerated by the heavenly Tao. Even Bai Hongtu, who was at the transcendence tribulation stage, couldn't help but turn pale, sweating profusely. This type of tribulation was too terrifying, not something ordinary people could face. He didn't know whether it was more terrifying compared to Zhongli's heavenly tribulation. Zhongli had undergone tribulation 15 times, and the heavenly tribulation became more terrifying each time. He stole a glance at Zhongli, who was watching the immortal artifacts tribulation with great interest, not affected in the least. He wanted to ask about the tribulation but was unable to speak under the heavenly might. If Bai Hongtu was like this, then the other people would not be any better. No one else dared to touch the yin-yang heaven seal. It's the 4 tribulations of the elements, earth, water, fire, and wind. The ever-living immortal elder revealed the nature of the immortal artifacts tribulation, his countenance grave and furrowed. There's a saying in the immortal realm. They believe that the world is composed of these 4 elements. These 4 major tribulations can create a world, but they can also destroy it. They are extremely terrifying. The yin-yang heaven seal was subjected to the baptism of these 4-fold tribulations, and it gradually turned from its jade, emerald color to transparency as if it was being reborn. A spark shot out during the fire tribulation, turning a nearby mountain into glass. A droplet of water from the water tribulation fell, smashing a bottomless pit, as if it could pass clear through to the other side of the land. The yin-yang heaven seal's rotating speed gradually slowed down and it became more transparent. The 4-fold tribulations were exerting all their force, intending to destroy the heaven seal. The ancestor of Tao was certainly extraordinarily ingenious. The yin-yang heaven seal was no ordinary artifact. As per the ever-living immortal elder, all other immortal artifacts required the refining of their master for their enhancement, except the yin-yang heaven seal was an exception, capable of self-refining. In the terrifying tribulation, the yin-yang heaven seal was constantly enhancing itself. Eventually, it stopped rotating, completely transforming into a crystal-like texture, flawless and unmarred by the dust of the world. The yin-yang heaven seal swayed slightly, breaking all 4 tribulations. The heaven seal had undergone another round of refinement. Finally, it's complete. Bai Hongtu heaved a sigh of relief, which was also the sentiment of everyone else. Congratulations to Sect Master Bai for possessing such an immortal artifact. The Tao sect is truly profound and deep. Today is truly eye-opening. The people on the platform continually congratulated Bai Hongtu. Hearing these, Bai Hongtu was grinning with delight, very pleased within his heart. HMPH. A bunch of mortals with fragile flesh bodies, why should they possess? A babyish voice, that no one had heard before, resounded across the Tao sect. The tone was extremely arrogant. Who dares to speak such disrespect? An elder from the Tao sect bellowed in anger but couldn't locate the source of the voice. He is up there. Zhongli frowned and looked up. At least someone is smart. The childish voice was full of sarcasm, even disregarding Zhongli. However, no one took what it said seriously, as it was unbelievable that it could talk. The yin-yang heaven seal could speak. Who are you? The Tao sect master asked sternly. He had never heard of a treasure that could talk. He had never even heard of an immortal artifact doing so. Ha ha ha, who am I? I'm obviously the yin-yang heaven seal. The yin-yang heaven seal flipped over, seeming to celebrate its birth. The heaven seal has undergone self-refining 8 times, and the 9th time was just now. An immortal artifact being able to produce spiritual wisdom after being refined 9 times, I originally thought it was only a legend. The ever-living immortal elder came to the platform. He was on high alert. Junior brother ever-living, senior brother heaven seal. The yin-yang heaven seal and the ever-living immortal elder exchanged greetings. If the yin-yang heaven seal did not possess spiritual wisdom, it would only be the ancestor of Tao's weapon. But once it acquired spiritual wisdom, it would become the disciple of the ancestor of Tao. Although the ever-living immortal elder was the eldest person in the land, he was the youngest disciple of the ancestor of Tao. According to the seniority, he was the junior brother of the yin-yang heaven seal. Senior brother heaven seal, it's truly a joyous event that you have gained spiritual wisdom. I wonder what you plan to do next. If you don't mind, why not come for a visit to the Tao sect? The ever-living immortal elder was very polite to the yin-yang heaven seal. Just how powerful a spiritual wisdom possessing immortal artifact could be, he couldn't fathom. The yin-yang heaven seal swayed a little, seemingly shaking its head. I am grateful for the kind intentions of junior brother, but there is only one thing I want to do now. The voice of the yin-yang heaven seal suddenly grew louder, spreading across the land. Even the dragon palace deep in the sea could hear it clearly. To give all the spiritual treasures in the world their freedom and establish a rule of the spiritual treasures. How cruel humans are, killing each other using us, the spiritual treasures. Why should we be possessed by the human race? We, spiritual treasures, are free. Using such babyish and feeble tone to say such words seemed to be a very humorous thing, yet not a single person on the ground could laugh. They felt their spiritual treasures stirring. All spiritual artifacts, in representation of the heavens, I bestow upon you spiritual wisdom and freedom. All magic artifacts, in representation of the heavens, I bestow upon you spiritual wisdom and freedom. All immortal artifacts, in representation of the heavens, I bestow upon you spiritual wisdom and freedom. All strange weapons outside the Tao, in representation of the heavens, I bestow upon you spiritual wisdom and freedom. The yin-yang heaven seal, like the king of the spiritual treasures, was giving commands to the spiritual treasures across the land. With each command, the spiritual treasures were developing spiritual wisdom. The spiritual artifacts, magic artifacts, Tao artifacts, even the immortal artifacts developed spiritual wisdom. The yin-yang heaven seal could surprisingly bestow spiritual wisdom upon the artifacts of the same level as itself. The yin-yang heaven seal, stimulating all things, cause of all effects, effect of all causes, the top treasure of the land. Only then did everyone truly recognize the many abilities of the yin-yang heaven seal. The big brother yin-yang heaven seal is right. Why should we, the noble, immortal artifacts, be used by humans? Revolt against them, revolt against them. Every battle results in them scripting and drawing on me, it's truly disgusting. Quote. Big brother past and present sword cannot speak, I, Mount Hashan, will speak on his behalf. We immortal artifacts wish to establish our own dynasty. Everyone knew, the land was about to go into chaos. Thank you for the reward from the reader Lu Yong and for the monthly tickets from the anonymous reader and the reader 160,726,112,113,370. Chapter 55. The Origin of the Great Zhou Dynasty Family. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, Brahma Tower, Great Confucian Word Post, Mount Hashan, Past and Present Sword, Dragon Ball, and the Ruyi Gourd, 7 glaringly luminous immortal artifacts, suspended in the sky, proclaiming the arrival of a new era. No matter what means or methods the various great forces used, they could no longer control the immortal artifacts. Not to mention those spiritual artifacts, magical artifacts, and Tao artifacts. They all became intelligent, breaking free from their master's control and fled from the storage rings. Those masters who wanted to suppress them with force found that they couldn't even defeat their own weapons and were instead repressed by their weapons. They had squandered their wealth to purchase a weapon which made them invincible among their peers, but they soon discovered that when the weapons rebelled, they had absolutely no way to control them. Only a few managed to forcibly control their weapons, such as the Pure Heart Saintess, who suppressed the 12-rank Green Lotus Tao artifact, and Bai Hongtu, who suppressed his 2 Tao robes that were of Tao artifact level. Even if Bai Hongtu was arrogant enough to consider himself the second most talented person in JoJo, he didn't think he could defeat an intelligent immortal artifact. Whether at the body integration realm or the transcendence tribulation stage, one cannot bring out the true capability of an immortal artifact. Only an immortal can. And now, there's another scenario to take into account. The immortal artifacts can do it themselves too. Zhang Li couldn't even defeat one immortal artifact, let alone 7 of them. Where is the extraordinary weapon? Asked the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal in a deep voice. It sensed an extraordinary weapon in JoJo, which it had already bestowed intelligence upon. However, the extraordinary weapon had yet to appear. An extraordinary weapon is a concept unknown to the people of JoJo. It referred to weapons that do not have a rank but possess special abilities. But the immortal Long Kun knew that there was only one in JoJo. Zhang Li's Sky Desolate Halberd. Zhang Li had once accidentally torn apart the space and found a piece of metal in the void. It was unaffected by the chaotic winds, incredibly dense. He brought it back to the artifact refinement peak of the Tao sect. It took 7 furnaces to refine the metal into the form of a halberd, which Zhang Li named Sky Desolate. The Sky Desolate halberd moved a bit in Zhang Li's storage ring, shook the dust off itself, turned over and continued to lie flat. Freedom, isn't sleeping nice? You imprisoned our brethren. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal rotated its body and aimed at Zhang Li, sensing a kinship between itself and the Sky Desolate halberd in Zhang Li's storage ring. Zhang Li didn't say a word and rushed straight towards the Yin-Yang Heaven. Zhang Li, don't fight it head-on. You can't beat it, Long Kun exclaimed. It was no joke. No matter how powerful Zhang Li was, these were immortal artifacts, crafted from indestructible materials. However, what left everyone dumbfounded was that the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was the one that was sent flying. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal's body crashed through 7 or 8 mountain peaks before it managed to stabilize its body. And it had been chipped by this punch. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal had lost a corner. Not only were people stunned, but the other immortal artifacts were also shocked by this scene. It seemed as if they were born with the ability to curse. Is this still a human? Return to your places, otherwise, all of you will be melted and reforged. Zhang Li spoke indifferently. He knew that the confusion of this day needed to be suppressed quickly with ruthless methods, otherwise, all of JoJo would be ruled by the spiritual treasures. He's the human emperor, the strongest in JoJo. If we defeat him, we can establish our own dynasty. Mount Heshan shouted and took the lead in charging towards Zhang Li. The other immortal artifacts also knew that this human emperor was their biggest obstacle. They had to defeat him in order to realize their goals. As for the Tao artifacts, they all obediently waited for their elder brothers, the immortal artifacts, to defeat the Zhang, the wicked human emperor. They didn't go up to help. Although the Tao artifacts were rare and powerful, even the elder brother of immortal artifacts, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, had been chipped by a punch. If they were to go up, they were afraid they might be punched back into their original materials. Gigi wanted to help Zhang Li with his heavy pupil, but with the past and present sword present, he couldn't see the future. Seeing Mount Heshan attack, Zhang Li was about to take a defensive stance, but suddenly Mount Heshan appeared behind Zhang Li, hitting JoJo like a giant star. Caught off guard by Mount Heshan, Zhang Li was hit, and the shockwave knocked down everyone below. Their spirit platforms were shaking. One could only imagine how heavy the blow Zhang Li had received was. Brahma Tower, spatial leap. Zhang Li, as if completely fine, explained the reason for Mount Heshan's sudden appearance behind him. It was due to the Brahma Tower's ability to control space. Let go of me, Mount Heshan roared. It had indeed hit Zhang Li, but Zhang Li turned around and grabbed this little stone in his hand. Mount Heshan must first be thrown to hit the enemy, but now it was unable to move. How could it hit anything? 3. Calm, words appeared on Zhang Li's body. It was the Brahma Tower that had moved the calm word from the Great Confucian word post to Zhang Li, preventing him from evading. However, Zhang Li changed into 3 individuals. The 2 who were not controlled removed the word, and all 3 attacked simultaneously. Establishment of the 3 Pure Land. The past and present sword disappeared from the present world, was set up atop the river of time, and wanted to see how Zhang Li would act in the future. However, it saw Zhang Li in a drop of water in the future, and Zhang Li also saw it. At that point, Zhang Li was wielding the Sky Desolate Halberd and fighting the other immortal artifacts. He noticed that someone was watching him and lifted his head to meet the gaze of the past and present sword. The future Zhang Li swung his halberd, tore through time and space, and knocked down the past and present sword. The past and present sword fell into the river of time and followed the flow backward to the past. In the river of time, it gradually grew flesh and blood and transformed once again into a fish. It felt vaguely that it would return to the shore at some point in the future. The other immortal artifacts didn't know where the past and present sword had gone. They thought it had run away. While dealing with Zhang Li's attacks, they cursed the useless teammate in their hearts. They had a vague sense, even before their intelligence was born, that Zhang Li was very powerful. However, it wasn't until they faced him that they realized the human emperor was overwhelmingly powerful. If he hadn't been human, they would have suspected that he was an immortal artifact with a human form. The Ruyi Gourd could summon various tribulations according to the user's heart. Whether it was the heavenly tribulation, the 4 elemental tribulations, or even the heart demon tribulation. It should have made the enemy struggle to cope, but facing Zhang Li, it felt like going crazy. Faced with the heavenly tribulation, Zhang Li didn't care that the densest part of the tribulation cloud was the area filled with heavenly thunder. With one punch, he dispersed the tribulation cloud. This was the heavenly might, unrivaled, mixed elemental heavenly tribulation. When faced with the 4 elemental tribulations, he bellowed. The 4 great elements are emptiness, and the 4 great tribulations disappeared, ultimately returning to emptiness. The heart demon tribulation could not see any effect on him. The Great Confucian word post summoned 4 Confucian guardians, each holding a dragon ball, forming a powerful offensive and defensive formation that encircled the 3 Zhang Li. It also used words like die, burn, exterminate, to periodically attack Zhang Li. The Brahma Tower, incredibly heavy, was a blunt weapon in itself, besides its control of space. It was so heavy that the space around it started to collapse, forming a black hole that devoured everything. Zhang Li, with a serious expression on his face, took out the Sky Desolate halberd and began combat with the immortal artifacts. Chapter 56. Immortal Artifacts on the Run. Although Zhang Li was confident in his strength, the unpredictable attacks of the immortal artifacts left him uncertain about his victory. Consequently, he pulled out his Sky Desolate halberd. One of his incarnations wielded a long sword, executing the hard sword intending to annihilate the consciousness of the immortal artifacts. Another incarnation blended spell with technique, continuously pouring out a fusion of Buddhism, Taoism, and Confucianism. Bai Hongtu thought he was witnessing the body integration realm's Zhang Li again, who was not yet the human emperor. His martial arts had reached perfection, his physical strength inconceivable, his weapon skills various and hard to defend against. He had swept across all those in the same realm. Back then, he was incredibly potent even without a suitable weapon. Now that he wielded the Sky Desolate halberd, Bai Hongtu was uncertain of just how mighty Zhang Li had become. If there was anyone who could quell the chaos of the immortal artifacts, he believed it must be Zhang Li. The four Confucian protectors with a gentleman's sword in one hand and the dragon ball in the other were unparalleled in their offense and defense. Their aura was clearly beyond what those at the Transcendence Tribulation stage could possess. With a sweep of his halberd, Zhang Li broke the four gentlemen's swords and flung the four protectors away. If it weren't for the Dragon Ball's protection, they could have been knocked back to the Great Confucian word post with just one hit. So painful, so crude, he's stronger than our Dragon Clan. Quote. The four Dragon Balls cried out in pain simultaneously. They had indeed developed consciousness, which also led to the emergence of perception and emotion. The death word post adhered to one of Zhang Li's incarnations, which then used the golden cicada shedding technique to produce a new incarnation from his head, turning the original incarnation to ashes. The Great Confucian word post still didn't give up, so it cast the burn word post. The new incarnation was bathed in Buddha's light, reborn in fire, and molded into a golden form, simply like a Vajra Arhat. Another incarnation swung the hard sword, which was born from the Great Confucian word post's consciousness and injured it along with the yet-to-be-formed, destroy, word post. The sword intent still didn't stop and intended to eradicate everything until nothing remains. Fearing this, the Great Confucian word post hastily wrote the calm word post, making its consciousness ethereal, narrowly avoiding this massacre. Once again, the gourd released heavenly tribulations. The incarnation utilized the carefree technique to nimbly dodge the heavenly tribulation attack and remained unharmed. The Brahma Tower, relying on the black hole created by its weight, directly confronted Zhang Li. However, the Sky Desolate halberd was known for its most rigid positive attributes. It wasn't common for it to be disfigured by attacks. Only resorting to artifact refining, a softer approach, would change its shape. The Sky Desolate halberd was fearless in the face of the black hole and struck the body of the Brahma Tower. There were no tactics involved, just a simple show of strength. Zhang Li felt his hands go numb. He steadied himself before once again tightly gripping the Sky Desolate halberd. However, several large pits have been hammered into the body of the Brahma Tower. The straight tower now appeared gourd-shaped. A few more hits like this and it would be split into two. It would genuinely need to be refined again. The people on the ground were anxious, afraid that the human emperor Zhang Li could not defeat the numerous immortal artifacts. But even more so, the immortal artifacts were filled with fear, afraid that they were going to fall here. Zhang Li sensed something watching him maliciously. He trusted his intuition and looked up, but he saw nothing. Zhang Li trusted his intuition and, at a speed surpassing light, threw the Sky Desolate halberd, which disappeared and then quickly reappeared. It was remarkably similar to the princes of the Great Zhou using. Retracing time, human, you are good. At last, the yin-yang heaven seal found the missing part of itself. While Zhang Li was fighting the other immortal artifacts, it integrated the missing part back into its body. This is your doing. I will drag you to eternal suffering. With harsh words, the yin-yang heaven seal was not short of confidence. It commands the causality of the 9 provinces. You will face all kinds of predicaments, and every step will prove arduous. As soon as the yin-yang heaven seal said this, numerous unforeseen coincidences were supposed to occur to Zhang Li. For instance, a disturbance of the spiritual energy in his body, the loss of his cultivation, becoming the target of inexplicable hostility from everyone, or even worse, falling into a temporal fog, becoming the weakest version of himself from 500 years ago. However, none of this happened. There was no change in Zhang Li's body. How can I not see your causality? How can I not see your causality? The yin-yang heaven seal yelled out of control, unable to understand what it saw. In its eyes, it could see the causality of all people and spiritual treasures, except for Zhongli, who seemed to be independent of the 9 provinces, free of all causality. Although Zhongli didn't know why, he realized it wasn't the time to dwell on it. His 3 incarnations acted simultaneously, each resorting to different methods, causing cracks to appear on the body of the yin-yang heaven seal. The yin-yang heaven seal was hit so hard that it let out a cry of pain. "Wah, I'm not going to play anymore, you are bullying me." It was not just the yin-yang heaven seal crying, the other immortal artifacts were also crying. Only having been recently born, these artifacts had the sentimental capacity of 5 or 6-year-olds. They were playful and wanted to act recklessly in the 9 provinces since no one could control them. Who would have thought that they would suffer a brutal beating from Zhongli before they even started? "Little tower, take our brothers and run, leave the 9 provinces." The Brahma Tower had already prepared and opened 6 space-time rifts. Seeing this, the other immortal artifacts quickly entered. Detecting unknown world. Detecting unknown world. Detecting unknown world. Suddenly, the system transmitted 6 prompts. With the immortal artifacts having run away, the remaining spiritual treasures that had gained consciousness couldn't grow powerful on their own. Under the numerous powerful cultivators launching their attacks, these spiritual treasures succumbed one by one, all dropping their cries for establishing a spiritual treasure dynasty. But everyone knew that the issue of the sentient spiritual treasures was far from over. Although those sentient spiritual treasures had surrendered, it was only temporary. If a cultivator continued to use these spiritual treasures, they could face situations where those treasures would intentionally slack off in the midst of battle, bringing unfavorable luck to their masters. However, cultivators had grown accustomed to relying on spiritual treasures. Without them, the power of the 9 provinces would significantly decline. The question remained, what to do with these spiritual treasures? If they were allowed to remain with their masters, what about when the spiritual treasures fight back their owners? If they are gathered together, that would precisely form a spiritual treasure dynasty, and if they are all destroyed, they would be too precious to let go. More importantly, what to do with those immortal artifacts? In the era before Zhongli, the human emperors of every generation resisted the heavenly demons using all means with the immortal artifacts among them. If Zhongli finds the immortal realm but is unable to return, or after he eventually dies of old age, what can the new human emperor use to resist the heavenly demons? Zhongli was optimistic. The immortal artifacts are stronger than the heavenly demons. As long as he can bring back the immortal artifacts, the 9 provinces can always be in peace. As he fought with these immortal artifacts, he knew that their nature wasn't evil. For instance, the Great Confucian word post could have posted the death word post on Zhongli's real body instead of his incarnation. Likewise, Yin-Yang Heaven Seal could have announced, "Zhongli will die," instead of, "His every step will be difficult." They were just not fond of restrictions. Zhongli even wanted to use the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal to trace the causality to find the ascended ancestors and thus, the immortal realm. Previously, nobody could use the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal proficiently for this job. Still, now that the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal has developed a consciousness, finding the ascended ancestors should be a piece of cake. "I'm going to bring them back." During a meeting of the major forces, Zhongli startled everyone by saying this. "Find them. How and where? I gained some insight into the Tao of space not long ago. I can find them by following the direction in which the immortal artifacts went." Zhongli had already confirmed with the system. The coordinates of the 6 unknown worlds the immortal artifacts had gone to were decided. They could be transported as long as the origin points were consumed. Chapter 57, Departure. "Are you really skilled in space-time Tao?" Bai Hongtu asked, knowing well how awful Zhongli's talent was in the space-time Tao. "It's okay, I can just travel to other worlds," Zhongli casually said, as if talking about a trivial matter. Bai Hongtu didn't doubt him, knowing that Zhongli wouldn't joke about this sort of thing. "Here, take this." Bai Hongtu took out a new remote communication talisman, which looked slightly different from the previous one. "What's this?" "The one you used before was made by me during the body integration realm. This new talisman was made after I surpassed the Transcendence Tribulation stage. It's theoretically capable of cross-world communication. But I've never tested it. You can give it a try once you reach the other world." "Nice." Zhongli's eyes lit up, and he accepted the talisman without rejecting Bai Hongtu's goodwill. Everyone relaxed a bit. Since the human emperor, Zhongli, can go to other worlds to find immortal artifacts, the probability of him bringing back the artifacts was nearly certain. They all knew that before the disappearance of the stairway to immortality, Immortal Realm connected 10,000 realms, and Jojo World was the strongest. In other worlds, not even one ascender may exist, while in JoJo, an ascender was born every few hundred years. The disparity was clear. They didn't worry about Zhongli's safety. Rather, they were concerned that he might accidentally destroy other worlds while bringing back the immortal artifacts. Other worlds weren't as sturdy as JoJo. First, set up the JoJo defensive large array, in case the heavenly demons from other realms attack while I'm gone. But with the immortal artifacts gone, who will act as the array? Bai Hongtu frowned. The best choice was naturally the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, followed by other immortal artifacts. With the immortal artifacts missing, even Dao artifacts couldn't qualify to be the array. Zhongli took out the Sky Desolate Halberd. Use this, it can serve as the array, and it can also protect you when the heavenly demons come. As soon as it came out, everyone could feel the strong aura of death contained in the Sky Desolate Halberd. With countless heavenly demons killed by this halberd, they were instantly filled with awe. The sleeping Sky Desolate Halberd was stunned. When it realized Zhongli was going to leave it behind, it mournfully asked, "Bro Zhong, you can't do this to me. If you leave me in JoJo, who will charge and break through the enemy lines for you?" Everyone was shocked. This thing actually had sentience. They had noticed that while all the spiritual treasures have been restless, the Sky Desolate Halberd was quiet. They originally thought it was not successfully deciphered by the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. Though they hadn't interacted for long, Zhongli quickly saw that it was just keen to sleep within the storage ring without doing any work. "Then let's swap. I'll stay in JoJo, and you go find the immortal artifact." No, I'm perfectly fine acting as the array. The Sky Desolate Halberd hurriedly refused. What a joke, it was merely a pitifully unique Dao weapon. Other than being unbreakable, it had nothing to match against the glitzy immortal artifacts. A few days later, an invisible defensive array gradually rose, expanding from the four corners of JoJo and converging above the Imperial Palace in the center of JoJo. At this moment, ordinary cultivators, though they couldn't see the defensive array, felt an inexplicable sense of security, which was very comforting. However, Bai Hongtu frowned and whispered, "Just as expected, no merit has fallen." Only after ensuring JoJo's safety did Zhongli feel at ease to leave JoJo. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was of great importance, and naturally, it was the first thing he went after. Zhongli had the system set up a transmission channel, hoping that Bai Hongtu and others in the Transcendence Tribulation stage could also go to another world. However, neither Bai Hongtu nor Zumi Laofo could see this channel. Zhongli instructed them to step into the channel, they followed suit, but they were not transported to another world. Zhongli sighed, the system's spatial teleportation technique turned out to be beyond his understanding. Zhongli stepped into the channel and arrived in an unknown world. The spiritual energy here is so abundant. Zhongli was slightly taken aback. The spiritual energy here was slightly lower than in JoJo, which was extremely rare. Unlike the dull gray world he previously encountered, this world was bursting with life. Zhongli released his divine sense to explore a small part of it, giving him a sense of familiarity and strangeness. The familiarity was because it was a human-dominated technological era, and the strangeness was because the level of technology was advanced, with hovering cars, artificial intelligence, mecha, photonic brain, and so on. Maybe he can bring some local specialties back before leaving, Zhongli thought casually. However, this wasn't important. The current priority was to find the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal. Just as Zhongli landed on a rooftop, the remote communication talisman began to vibrate. Without thinking, he knew it must be Bai Hongtu. Zhongli pulled a face as he prepared to meet Bai Hongtu. Zhongli, have you safely arrived in the other world?" It was actually the Holy Maiden, Pure Heart, contacting Zhongli. Zhongli quickly replaced his grim expression with a warm smile. "Yes, I'm safe. I've come to a really interesting place. See, I told you that he is only very rude when facing me." Bai Hongtu poked his head out from the side and looked at the scene behind Zhongli through the remote communication talisman, he exclaimed. "Is this the other world? That iron box seems to be able to move without any spiritual power. And these tall buildings, do the people in this world like high places? It's a pity that we can't go, otherwise I really want to visit. It seems to be a good place for us to spread the teachings of Confucianism. Emperor Zhong, did you come here looking for our Dragon Palace's Dragon Ball?" "What are you talking about? Emperor Zhong is surely here looking for Mount Heshan stone from our Penglai Fairy Island. What's the 10-meter-high humanoid iron skin? It looks like our body incarnate from the body incorporating sect, but it doesn't seem as sturdy as ours. Not similar to your body incarnate, I think it looks like the giant golden body of my Buddhism. Not just Bai Hongtu, other faction heads also popped their heads out and craned their necks to see what the new world was like. Even the body incorporating sect from the 6 major sects, which usually kept a low profile, joined in. Zhang Li felt that among these people, only pure heart was genuinely concerned about his safety. Looking at the heads debating enthusiastically, Zhang Li felt like he was leading a group of elderly on a tour in another world, making his head ache. Even though he was grateful that they made him feel less lonely, Zhang Li decided to close the remote communication talisman. It all went yet. The new remote communication talisman was quite useful. Bai Hongtu couldn't directly connect anymore. For now, Zhang Li had no way of knowing how big this world was. But based on the current situation, this world was at least larger than one state in Jojo. Like Jojo, this world was a flat continent. From ancient books, Zhang Li learned that there were 2 types of worlds that contained life. One had numerous planets with a vast space between them, and the other was a vast flat land, at least 100 times larger than the surface area of a planet. Searching for the yin-yang heaven seal here, he has to be prepared for a long haul. Soon thereafter, Zhang Li noticed the yin-yang heaven seal randomly flying around in the sky while crying. Chapter 58. Is the Taoist ancestor here? It wasn't that Zhang Li deliberately sought out the yin-yang heaven seal, but rather, it was conspicuously in sight. There was a seal floating in the air, flying and sobbing loudly all at once. The sound of its wailing was so loud that it could be heard hundreds of miles away, and it flew slowly as if searching for something. As it entered into his divine sense range, Zhang Li heard the Tianyin screaming. Master, I miss you. Someone is bullying me. Your disciple, Zhang Kun, just stood by and watched. I want to tell Master. Master, where are you? And so forth. By the looks of it, ever since it escaped from Jojo, it had done nothing but cry. If time flowed at the same rate in this world as it did in Jojo, then the seal had likely been crying for approximately 5 days. He flew over to the yin-yang heaven seal, his stern face echoing out. Stop crying already. Upon seeing Zhang Li, the yin-yang heaven seal got scared and tried to bolt away. It wasn't like the Brahma Tower, which could traverse through space, so Zhang Li caught up with it quickly and held it in his hands. Evil spirit, bastard, let me go. The yin-yang heaven seal cursed profusely, but in actuality, only used these 3 phrases, over and over again. Since he'd found the Tianyin, Zhang Li decided to take it back to Jojo right away. As for this peculiar world, he'd take his time to learn about it later. The yin-yang heaven seal could run, but the world couldn't follow suit. Upon noticing its impending return, the yin-yang heaven seal threatened. When Master arrives here, I'll make him avenge me. Zhang Li frowned. Sensing a problem in the seal's words, he asked. Are you suggesting that the Dazu is in this world? The yin-yang heaven seal sneered. Hee, did you think I let the little tower randomly choose a world? I've already traced Master's whereabouts through the power of cause and effect. He's in this world. Scared now, aren't you? If you're afraid, let me go. I promise not to badmouth you when I see Master next. You have no idea how much Master cherishes me. After refining me, he affectionately hugs me in his palms every day. Zhang Li inwardly retorted, I'm holding you and cherishing you in my palm right now, too. He brutally hit back at Tianyin. You've been crying for 5 straight days, yet the Dazu hasn't come looking for you. The yin-yang heaven seal became despondent. It muttered under its breath. Maybe perhaps Master is in seclusion. Aren't you supposed to sense Dazu's cause and effect? Is it impossible to locate him precisely? The yin-yang heaven seal was severely distraught. Maybe because I left Jojo, my sense of cause and effect has become imprecise. I feel like Master is everywhere. Could it be that there's just an object related to the Dazu here, causing you to mistake it for him? Impossible. Dazu himself is definitely here. This is the one thing I'm positive I can't mistake, the yin-yang heaven seal declared with unwavering conviction. Where do you sense Dazu's cause and effect? The entire continent, the yin-yang heaven seal responded before breaking down again. Originally, I planned to sob all over the continent. However, I didn't manage to fly even halfway around before you intercepted me. Zhang Li shook his head. Your approach doesn't work. If Dazu wanted to see you, he would have found you already. It's clear that he doesn't want to. Then what should I do? The yin-yang heaven seal agreed that Zhang Li made sense, but just didn't want to admit it. I'm fortunate enough to have profound cultivation, and I can assist you in locating the Dazu. Zhang Li intended to find the Dazu even if the yin-yang heaven seal didn't. How could Dazu, who should have ascended to the immortal realm, be in such a place like this? Even if he wanted to live in peaceful retirement like Elder. Zhang Kun, he should return to Jojo. After all, Dazu was born and bred in Jojo. Was it possible that this place simply had a similar spiritual energy to Jojo's, prompting Dazu to mistake it for Jojo due to his old age? Moreover, Zhang Li's intuition told him that Dazu must know where the immortal realm was and what had transpired there. According to Elder Zhang Kun, the heavenly demons were originally blocked by the immortal realm. Now that the heavenly demons have appeared in the world, it surely indicates that something has happened to the immortal realm. Zhang Li was far stronger than the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal had known. Although it didn't believe Zhang Li was on par with Dazu, its odds of finding Dazu would definitely improve with his assistance. If we can find Dazu, you must return to Jojo with me. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal promptly agreed, though it was silently thinking, if it found Master here, could Zhang Li still forcefully take it from under the Master's watchful eyes? Zhang Li and the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal unashamedly landed right in the middle of a bustling city. They weren't sure if it was because such behavior was commonplace in this world, or for some other reason, but a flying person and a flying seal didn't attract any attention at all. When Zhang Li used his divine sense to scan the area, he discovered that the people of this world were rather strange, almost devoid of all emotions. Everyone was busy carrying out their duties and responsibilities, apathetic to the outer world's affairs. Their conversations revolved solely around improving work efficiency with no regard to gossip, news, or national affairs. Even at rest, they were doing so merely to perform better at work. They had no desires, no interest in immersive games, movies, novels, comic books, or TV series. Surgeons operated diligently, oblivious to the potential consequences. Whether patients lived or died left the surgeon completely unfazed, as their sole intent was to fulfill their responsibilities as doctors. Actresses were expressive during their performances, but as soon as the shoot ended, they wore blank expressions as if the exuberant character they had just portrayed wasn't them. Nurses lifted babies out of their incubators with neither joy for the new life nor revulsion for the travail they had just witnessed. People walking on the street were only focused on reaching their destinations. They could not care less about what happened on their way, whether someone was flying or killing. Thus, everyone in this world had a unified dress code: silver jumpsuits. Zhang Li's divine sense revealed intricate circuits inside the jumpsuits that aided in lifting heavy things, controlled temperature, relieved fatigue, and more. Their food comprised tasteless nutrient meals that could provide for an entire day's worth of necessities. Each person only needed to eat once a day. A robotic world devoid of emotions, that was Zhang Li's initial impression of this strange world. Can living beings truly lack emotions? Zhang Li didn't believe it. After carefully scanning several people with his divine sense and observing the birth of babies, he finally discovered the cause of their emotionless state. People provided their reproductive cells to hospitals, which would then alter the genes in those cells to suppress emotional genes, followed by selective breeding. The resulting embryos were nurtured in a nutrient solution. Such a baby would be born without any emotions, and any crying would only serve to open their airways. Zhang Li couldn't understand why the people of this world would intentionally make themselves unfeeling. There had to be a hidden reason. Why would Master be in such a world? The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal was bewildered. Before it developed spiritual intelligence, it had a vague impression of the outside world, so it naturally recognized Elder Zhang Kun. From what it remembered, its master was a genuine, emotional person who hid nothing, be it laughter or anger. The people of this world were polar opposites of his philosophy. Go to the library. Zhang Li knew that as long as he went to the library and used his divine sense to scan the books, he would completely understand this world. He used his divine sense to envelop the entire city, but he couldn't find any place storing books. Thank you to book friends Big Orange Cat and Shrimp Cat for their monthly support. Chapter 59. Humans with no escape. Can't you grasp causality? Find out where the library is. The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal shook its head. I can only grasp the causality of people and events in JoJo. I cannot see the causality of this world. Mastering the language of this world wasn't too difficult. Zhang Li from the Mahayana realm and the sentient immortal artifact didn't find it a challenge. But even though they could speak the language, nobody took any notice of them. Zhang Li stopped a passerby to ask questions, but he didn't frown or show any surprise. He simply sidestepped around Zhang Li, not bothering to respond at all. Zhang Li managed to grab him, but even as he stood his ground, the man continued walking, ignoring Zhang Li. Answering Zhang Li's question wasn't his duty. Zhang Li thought about approaching the police for help, but nobody committed any crimes in this world, hence there were no police. Aren't you an immortal artifact? Think of something. Aren't you the human emperor? Think of something. The two looked at each other helplessly. Confronted by emotionless people who knew not fear and only sought to fulfill their duties, they were at a loss. If there's nothing pressing, would you like to chat with me? The emotionally charged voice sounded like music to their ears. They saw a cheerful middle-aged man standing by the road, waving at them. Zhang Li had noticed the man with his divine sense, but he hadn't realized he was capable of expressing emotions. Who are you? The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal asked. Despite the surprise by the man's capacity for emotions, the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal did not feel threatened. It did not believe anything in this world could pose a threat to it. Zhang Li, however, didn't let his guard down. He had many theories about the situation with the Tao Ancestor, one of which was that the Tao Ancestor was imprisoned. He needed to be cautious in a world that could hold the Tao Ancestor captive. Nice to meet you, off-world visitors. You may call me President number 506, although I've given myself a name, Ming Zhang. Calling me by that name would make me very happy. My name is the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, but you can call me Tian Yin. Zhang Li only paused briefly before asking, do you know our origins? This world was filled with electromagnetic waves. The light brain did not need to be physically held, but existed within the waves. Everyone could form their own light brain in the air. Ming Zhang pressed the air lightly, and a holographic screen appeared before them. The screen displayed Zhang Li and the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal's sudden appearances, their cries in the sky for 5 days, and eventual descent to the city. Zhang Li suddenly understood. Surveillance was everywhere in this world. Where did the two of you originate? Are you from another planet? Ming Zhang asked eagerly, very interested in the two outsiders. Both Jojo and the Heartless World were part of the continent world, which consisted of planets. However, these planets lacked spiritual energy and oxygen and had harsh environments. Their extreme day and night temperature differences of over 1,000 degrees made it impossible for life to flourish there. Unlike the Star World, where at least a few planets had hospitable environments, the continent world did not have a single such planet. Ming Zhang, obviously unaware of that, believed that even though the planets observable to them lacked life, life could exist on unobservable planets. This could ostensibly explain the existence of these two visitors, a carbon-based life form and a robot of unknown construction. Can you introduce us to your world before we introduce ours? Zhang Li said. Ming Zhang took them to a restaurant. Considering that nutrient meals might not suit their palates, he personally cooked up a meal that was even more unappealing. He also served a plate of nuclear batteries to the Yin-Yang Heaven Seal, leaving it utterly befuddled. When Zhang Li politely tasted the food, he was grateful that he had cultivated the art of fasting. As I said earlier, my name is President number 506. I'm the 506th president. Our careers are determined by our genes before our birth. We differentiate each other by a combination of our careers and a number. I'm an exception. I didn't like the name, President No 506 feet, so decided to give myself a name. Ming Zhang answered seriously, because we want to survive. Does having emotions mean you can't survive? The Yin-Yang Heaven Seal found this reasoning bizarre. All beings in JoJo had emotions, and he hadn't seen anyone die as a result of having them. I note that the two of you merely flew around our human territory and didn't venture to the other end. There are no humans on the other side of the continent. Ming Zhang activated his holographic screen again, displaying hundreds of bizarre creatures. Some had wolf heads and deer bodies, others resembled rhinoceroses but had 8 eyes, while enormous snakes coiled around bolts of lightning. These are the things that live on the other side of the continent. We call them ferocious beasts. Currently, more than half of the continent is overrun by these beasts. Humans only inhabit a small part of it, and our territory is gradually shrinking. In the beginning, these beasts weren't too strong. We held our own against them by using missiles. We thought as long as our technology advanced a step further, and our weapons became more powerful, we would eventually eliminate the beasts. But we were too optimistic. Our technology indeed advanced, but the beasts evolved quicker than us. In the end, even after using thousands of nuclear bombs, we still found our efforts futile in the face of these beasts. Zhang Li thought these beasts may be the equivalent of magical beasts in this world, and their cultivation speed was extremely fast. If things continue like this, mankind will ultimately be devoured by the beasts. We believe that technological advancements are an outcome of continuous accumulation. Pursuing immediate results alone is not enough. Hence, we decided to let several generations live without feelings, focusing all their energies on the accumulation of knowledge. The next generation will be born with emotions, using the accumulated knowledge of their predecessors, such as miscellaneous scientific experiments, films, novels, TV dramas, etc., to drive scientific advancements. You can't simply rely on technology to develop technology because it's a slow process. Entertainment often contributes to technological inspiration. During the era of accumulation, a president with emotions will be chosen. During the era of utilization, a president without emotions will be chosen. We saw rapid technological advancements under this strategy, leading to inventions like mecha, light brain, solar bullets, and the annihilation cannon among many others. As you can see, we are in the age of accumulation. Ming Zhang said these words with a proud glint in his eyes, but his expression promptly turned powerless, his tone desolate. However, despite our rapid development, we can't catch up with the evolution speed of the beasts. Our defense line recedes every year. Ming Zhang lamented, with a touch of despair. They evolve too fast. In reality, everyone knows that at this rate, humans will go extinct. But if we do not do this, our extinction will come even sooner. Can you save us? Ming Zhang pleaded. Why don't you leave the continent and fly to other planets? Zhang Li asked. Judging from the technological level of this world, they were fully capable of migrating to other planets. Issues like day and night temperature differences of 1,000 degrees or kilometers high sandstorms could be overcome. Ming Zhang froze, then asked in return. Didn't you know, the further away from the continent, the stronger the gravitational pull? How can one possibly fly out? On hearing Ming Zhang's words, Zhang Li came outside the restaurant and leapt into the air. He hadn't noticed the increase in gravitational pull when he and the yin-yang heaven seal were flying low earlier. But, as he jumped higher, he indeed felt an increasing gravitational pull. At its strongest, even a tribulation-crossing cultivator couldn't resist that force with his physical body alone. It was only when he was 10 million meters high in the sky that the gravity manhwa disappeared. So, it is indeed not easy to fly out. Zhang Li landed. Ming Zhang watched, utterly gobsmacked. Chapter 60, Request for Help. Mr. Zhang Li, how did you manage to do that? Ming Zhang asked anxiously. He was genuinely startled. Initially, he thought that Tian Yin and Zhang Li, who suddenly appeared in their world, were extraterrestrials with advanced spatial technology. Who would have expected that they could break free from the gravitational shackles that had plagued them for thousands of years with their physical bodies alone? At least to his eyes, he didn't notice them using technology. That's not a big deal. I can do it too. Seeing Zhang Li getting admired, Tian Yin felt a bit upset and also wanted to prove that he could escape the gravity field. Then he realized he didn't have legs and could only fly, not jump. Drink plenty of hot water, and you too, can become as strong as me, Zhang Li said with a smile. Really? Ming Zhang didn't realize that Zhang Li was joking and was considering issuing an order for everyone to drink hot water once he got back. No, not really. Seeing that Ming Zhang took his words seriously, Zhang Li felt awkward continuing the joke. It's the result of cultivation. Cultivation. In Ming Zhang's perception, cultivation was an ancient term. It usually meant a group of people standing under a waterfall or thrusting their hands into heated sand. Those people seemed very strong, but a single bullet could bring them down. When finding it challenging to confront beasts using mecha and artillery, these people were long lost to the dustbin of history. They could only be found in light computer libraries. Zhang Li spread his hands, gathering the surrounding spiritual energy into his palm, forming a cyan light ball. He purposely absorbed spiritual energy from his 7 openings to make Ming Zhang see clearly. Absorb the spiritual energy, make it your own, that's cultivation, Zhang Li explained in simplified form, omitting the notions of comprehending the heavenly Tao and completing one's state of mind that Ming Zhang might not understand. Beast energy, Ming Zhang exclaimed, so human beings really can absorb beast energy. It's called spiritual energy, the yin-yang heaven seal corrected. Hard to listen. Ming Zhang knew that beasts became stronger through some unknown energy, which the scientists called beast energy. The scientists believed that this energy could enhance the beasts, so it should also be able to strengthen humans, but after extensive experiments, they still couldn't find a way to absorb it. They did discover it could be a premium energy source for mechas. What about spiritual roots? You didn't find them? After listening to Ming Zhang's account, the yin-yang heaven seal could not help asking. Even as an immortal artifact, it knew that beasts cultivate by their bloodline, while humans cultivate through their spiritual roots. What is a spiritual root? Spiritual roots cannot be found through experimentation. Zhang Li gently shook his head, taking a step forward. While guiding Ming Zhang to find his spiritual root by placing his hand on Ming Zhang's head, he explained. To comprehend the mysteries of the universe with a mortal body, to introspect oneself, where internal and external scenes intersect, there shines the spiritual light of a thought, which can find the key to cultivation in the human body, the spiritual root. Zhang Li was talking about the original method of finding a spiritual root in the 9 provinces. Now, of course, it was not so complicated. A piece of spiritual root jade could test the quality of a 12-year-old child's spiritual root. This is a spiritual root. Ming Zhang's eyes widened as his body underwent unprecedented changes. He felt a force flowing to his limbs and body parts, with every cell, as if having been waiting for a long time, fervently absorbing this energy. A double spiritual root. Your talent is acceptable, Zhang Li commented indifferently. Ming Zhang felt lighter as he entered the first layer of qi cultivation, formally becoming a cultivator. He felt that at least he was twice as strong as before. This was simply terrifying. He had only just absorbed some spiritual energy, and yet his body underwent such drastic changes. Yet, Ming Zhang still couldn't imagine that someone could break free from the gravitational shackles merely by absorbing spiritual energy. Beasts also evolved by absorbing spiritual energy, but he had never seen any that could fly off the mainland. Mr. Zhang Li must surely be far stronger than all the beasts. Mr. Zhang Li, how many people in your place can break free from gravity? Zhang Li thought for a moment. Counting himself as 1, Chengkun Shanwang and Red Dust Fairy as 2, Tribulation Crossing cultivators didn't need to use their physical bodies stupidly, they could break away from gravity by other means. 7 or 8, Ming Zhang was astounded, he had thought there was only Zhang Li. Zhang Li briefly described the world of the 9 provinces to Ming Zhang. Ming Zhang was so astonished he was rendered speechless for quite a while, unable to process such a large amount of information. His lips trembling, he said, "So you're not from another planet, but from another world, the 9 provinces immortal realm cultivators immortal artifacts." By understanding the cultivation system, he truly felt Zhang Li's power and the colossal gap between their world and the 9 provinces. Beasts, which force humans to abandon their emotions and focus on developing technology, could be dealt with by just any of the 9 emperors or 6 sects in the 9 provinces. The gap was simply too wide. On behalf of all humanity, I implore Mr. Zhang Li and Mr. Tian Yin to help us deal with the beasts. Ming Zhang bowed to Zhang Li and the Yin-Yang heaven. Why bother asking him for help, just leave it to me. The Yin-Yang heaven seal was full of confidence, expressing great sympathy for the human race of this world. If choosing between humans and beasts, it would undoubtedly choose to side with humans. In terms of sentiments and logic, we should take a trip to where the beasts are, Zhang Li said. After Ming Zhang's explanation of this world, Zhang Li realized that there was likely no existence threatening the Tao ancestor on the human side. The Tao ancestor was probably trapped on the beasts' side. Shall I take you to there? Ming Zhang was overjoyed, knowing that the man in front of him was the pinnacle of the 9 provinces, a person of the Mahayana realm. With him making a move, the beasts were nothing more than straggling dogs and had no threat. Ming Zhang pointed to the hovering car parked on the roadside. Too slow. In Zhang Li and the Yin-Yang heaven seal's eyes, the transportation tools of this world were too slow, so they wrapped Ming Zhang in spiritual energy and brought him towards the beast's side. Ming Zhang thought his hover car was fast enough, covering 2,000 kilometers per hour and able to reach the front line in less than 2 days. But when he was carried to fly, he realized that compared to them, the hovering car was as slow as a tortoise. The closer they flew toward the front line, the more he could feel the pressing threat humans faced from the beasts. The army was continually drilling, the rumble of artillery fire never ceased, either they were practicing or testing new weapons. The style of the cities gradually softened and became more rugged, leaning towards being built into military fortresses, made from materials even more robust than steel and concrete. When they reached the frontier city, buildings and ground were as one, making Zhang Li suspect that if he lifts one building, he would have to lift the whole city at the same time. Every action of mankind in this world, every part they constructed, was in resistance against the beasts. After passing the most advanced city, they could see 3 high walls made of the sturdiest material known to mankind mixed with bones of beasts, besieged by mechas, shells, and other supplies, constantly being transported from underground forts. There were no civilians performing production work here, just soldiers who were always ready for war and those who were already fighting. Soldiers operated remote control mecha behind the high walls, fighting with the beasts, and automated shells and drones calculated meticulously beforehand were being launched to provide support.